action. Davvyd, welcome everyone. We had to call well, this is a very football-oriented episode here. Thank God we have Davvyd. I mean, this guy is the Adam Schefter of Southern California.
I'm an expert on sports, as you know.
But the best part about it is you can fake it better than anyone in the business.
I can slip in, running out the clock occasionally and fool you,
If you ever get a gig composing for sport, you know how like Fox has jingles and stuff.
Yeah.
All the stuff in the different various sports. I would love to see you go in an interview with this. Like, we'll set you up with just like fake sports passion to try to get the gig. You have to interview. God, there's not, and you would just like intricate sports analytics knowledge. When Nick Chubb runs up the middle, he 6.5 yards. When it's a pitch out on the right side, it's 4.7 yards. So my attitude is just run up there and just do that shit to him. I'm from Cleveland.
What I need to do is notate. I have to go back a couple Deppening episodes and notate your rant about. I don't even remember what the thing is, but it's sort of like people who are in it for like the wins and not for the story of the season or something.
The ride.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Just specifics about that, and I'll convince them that way. They'll love your passion through my host body.
If you're only in it for the rings and the championships, you get lost. You're not enjoying the journey. The journey is what I'm all about. I could care less. Even as an individual player, if I lost, I could give a shit. As long as I know I left it all out there and did everything I could within my own abilities, I could give a flying F if we win or lose. Right. That's fine. You want to bench? If coaches don't like that, that's that. I know that I'm the one that followed the layup and got the offensive rebound when nobody else hustled down there. I'm the one who boxed out. Right. I'm the one who ran the fast break. I'm the one who played when nobody else would. And you're blaming because I don't care if I win or lose. You're going to blame me for it? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
To me, it reminds me of like, I always love character actors more than I love movie stars because they work way harder,
Yeah. That's such a great analogy. By the way, we're trying to reinforce stereotypes here that gay men do not follow sports.
Exactly. Yes, I'm here to. I'm here to perpetuate that into oblivion. Yeah.
Although you're the one who's been to a Cleveland Browns game and I haven't, and Super Browns fan Sara has not been to a Cleveland Browns
I've been to
game.
several. Yeah. So,
how many have you been to?
Oh God, I'm gonna say 5 in my life, but they were all between the ages of like 8 and 12. So they were.
Oh my God, those are some bad. Was Belichick the coach at that time?
It was 90. So that's between like 97 and 2001, maybe, that I've been to Browns games.
Just before they left they got stolen by Isabel's Ravens. Stole them. They went off to Baltimore and won 2 Super Bowls.
I remember uncles grumbling about that at Christmas. Yes.
Well, it's your Super Bowl. Like it's the same franchise. It's the same infrastructure. Right. You just moved to another city and won Super Bowls. It's the craziest thing. And then you have the best fans in Cleveland, the best sports fans in Cleveland. Yeah. It really is. And I feel I feel for that town so much. Collectively, I love the sports scene there. Like if I take the Indians, the Browns, and the Cavaliers, I think I love them collectively more than any other city. If you put it all at once, I'm not a fan. Like my favorite teams are other teams, but if I put it all together, like I love those teams. They're all in my top 5.
Yeah, and I gather that as devoted as Cleveland fans are, like they are abandoned quite a bit by various sports figures, and I mean maybe that just happens all the time, and I don't know.
Look at you referencing LeBron James leaving Cleveland twice. When he, I don't know if you saw this, like when he came back, he announced he was coming back to Cleveland from Miami. They played that song. He goes, "I'm coming home. I'm coming home. Tell the world I'm coming home." In the slow motion, he's like getting off the private jet in whatever the airport is.
Right. That's so funny.
I want to say hi to everyone. Thanks for joining us on that Deshaun Watson audible I just called. A. Smith, you're the best. Yes, to confirm, A. Smith, this is the ice you're talking about in the thread. Where is it? Right, this is the ice. By the way, Debbie, do you feel an energy when you do this at like 2 PM as opposed to later in the day, or does it feel more up? Or
it and I feel like because we end a little earlier where the sun is still out, I still feel like I have a little bit of I can do other things or something. I mean, it doesn't matter. I love being on the show. So
Hey, look at our two avatars. This is Johnny Depp in playing probably Pop Warner football in Kentucky, as per
yeah.
Paul Barisi, the Ray Donovan PI who snuffed out some really crazy shit. He went back to the 70s, and this number, it looks like a Namath jersey. I'm sure John O'Reilly thinks
Right.
it's a Namath jersey, but I don't know. Could be the Eagles. Who knows what they call them then? And this Davvyd and Davvyd's, would these two hang out in school together?
I think yes, that is me at 14 in my Edward Cello Hands attire, getting ready to play piano actually for a rock band I was in.
God, that might be my favorite Johnny Depp picture in the history of his career. I really mean that. I really, really do. I never, all these years, all the pictures that have come, yet it takes Paul Barisi to snuff this out.
Yeah.
Welcome,
That's so
Flamer.
funny.
Flamer's going to sit in on the next 21 Jump Street. And I hope you do too. It's the Valentine's Day episode if you want to get ahead of it. And they do like vignettes. It's kind of an origin story, really.
For like all the I remember because we watched
Chapel of Love.
Right, and not to give a spoiler, but I remember we watched the segment where who played Depp's father?
Yeah, the guy from Seinfeld.
That's why we watched it.
The robbery episode of
robbery
Seinfeld.
episode.
The arresting cop is Hanson's father's partner
in
the shootout. And we talked about that. The crossover of that show and Seinfeld is crazy, which is great. I mean, the way, because we're doing, by the way, great job on the Seinfeld watch along. We just did a Seinfeld watch along yesterday. Again, it was 3 hours and 10 minutes on a 22-minute episode. And the Penske Files are always fun. And I go forever. I mean, I have so much fun doing that. And I have equal fun doing this and Jump Street. With the Seinfeld one, it's also a look into old New York.
Yeah.
When we do that, and the world of stand-up comedy as it was and as it is. And obviously the show is germane and the most important thing, but it's fun to go into the history of old, gritty, grimy, dangerous New York.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm happy to do the plugs for Sara. It's patreon.com/Wino forever. I think it's $2 a month, is it?
Yeah, it's only the only reason we did it at all is because we couldn't do what we did yesterday with here.
No, of course.
You can't show it. I mean, we got a ding, Davvyd, on the Sarah's Seinfeld opening. We got a YouTube copyright ding. It was 3 seconds.
Just for playing the theme. Yeah.
And we got copyright. You talk about like, how much money do you need, Jerry and Larry? That's why I'm so pro Mike Costanza in that argument.
Yeah.
That his life got stolen.
Someone copyrighted like smacking their lips and popping their cheek. Like, God damn it!
I had to edit it out to get it. I'm not gonna get demonetized. Not that you make that anything off the same way, but you make so little. And off that, it's so not worth it. I'm not giving them the satisfaction.
Yeah. No,
I'm just not doing it. When we do a Jump Street, I'm trying to figure out when. I'm hoping next week sometime. We have to do it next week. It's got to be somewhere in next week. And I hope you join us too, Davvyd.
Yeah, I'll text you about dates and times.
Arm hasn't changed the date yet. What did I not change? What did I not do? I don't know. I'm not.
Yeah, I think Sara thought it was going to be next week, and then it's today. We're here.
Welcome, John O'Reilly, Judy Tenuta. Isabel and your Ravens and your Orioles and all these great things that are happening to you. The Ravens are the only team I don't like in the AFC North, and out of utter bitterness. It's because they're so good. It's because they're so relentlessly, annoyingly good. And I'm a Steeler fan, and I like the Browns and the Bengals, but the Ravens are my arch nemesis. It's crazy. It's probably, I feel Steelers Ravens is the best rivalry in all of sports. In all sports. Any combination of those teams in the AFC North, it's the greatest division in sports. I've always felt that, and I feel it more now today when they're all good at the same time. Good afternoon, Autobot. I'm awaiting the return of gray, gloomy skies. Oh, he's in Seattle. Jet City Woman to you, Autobot. And he said the suicide thing is a real thing. The suicide day thing is a real thing up there. with the
I think
rates and
the I think the contemporary internet term is unaliving yourself.
unaliving.
Yes.
Speaking of nomenclature, how great was that? Well, it wasn't an exchange. I texted you at like 3 a.m. about a word I just heard.
Yes. I don't
I'm
even
nursing
remember what
this
it was.
migraine. I'm watching the MSNBC with Lawrence O'Donnell, and he has this correspondent on. He's like oh god, he called himself his description was like matriarch, rock, just like every smart guy term you can
Yeah,
use. I
right.
can't even Professor Emeritus. That's it, Emeritus.
Emeritus.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
right.
And he used the word, Davvyd, do you remember what the word was?
I have it here. I don't remember it offhand. I don't even think I bothered to learn how to pronounce it.
Obloquy. Obloquy.
Obloquy. Okay.
Obloquy. So he goes, I tell you, we have this guy deserves all the obloquy we can give him. Like, I'm nursing a migraine. I'm half asleep. I'm like, what the fuck did he just say? I pause it, rewind it, put closed captions on. I get my phone out. I'm like, what the hell did he just say? Obloquy? And I'm looking at it, and I spelt it wrong because I thought he said like, I thought the V was a B, and I'm trying to like, what is this word? It's driving me crazy. And I finally looked it up, and it's Obloquy.
Yeah.
Obloquy, and it means strong condemnation utterance of abusive language towards someone. It's just like shit talking someone, like you
Yeah,
just
right.
and that's what kind of MSNBC does to Trump all day and stuff. But it's a fancy word for shit talking someone that you hate. And I have made it to this year, 2023, and never heard that word.
I've never heard that word. I want to go on
And if you
MSNBC.
didn't hear it, I know it's crazy.
It's obscure. Yeah. I want to go on MSNBC and just like use all these words that I think sound big but aren't the right term at all. Like we need to arugula these people as much as possible.
Arugula is a word I've never heard. You just beat him.
Yeah.
You just beat him. But you used it as like a verb or something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm making a joke. It's like totally not the right word, but just it sounds big, and so just troll establishment media with big words that don't have anything to do with what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, this is what you used yesterday on the Seinfeld show, and I didn't bring attention to it, and I should have. And I remember getting off, going, "Why didn't I?" We got off onto something else, and I couldn't harp on it like I wanted to. But this was a word you used yesterday. If anybody can see this, come on, share it. Oh, these stupid StreamYard hiccups.
I'm going through my memory of yesterday. Up. Okay.
It's trying to come up.
It looks like it. Yeah, there we go. Oh, parenthetical.
So somewhere in there, probably like the 40-minute mark, Davvyd says parenthetical. What was the simplest way to describe this word?
It's like a sidebar. Just it's a tangent, a tangential sort of comment that has nothing to do with the main points that I'm trying to make.
Oh, so the Merriam-Webster uses a sports analogy to use it in a sentence. He goes, the recuperating Yankees have a parenthetical medical problem that is now part of each player's name: Hernandez, Pettit, Rivera, Mendoza, O'Neill, Justice, Jeter, Nobla. Put them together and it spells the Yankees' problems. Parenthetical, is it used right here? I mean, obviously Merriam-Webster.
I think so. It could also be maybe I'm using it incorrectly. I always thought it meant like a sidebar, but maybe it means examples of the thing that I'm talking about as if something was in parentheses.
The English language is so annoying that you can't even use that word. It has to have many meanings. So you can't even just have the one meaning. It's annoying enough that we have too many words and we're going to have multiple meanings for a difficult word on top of that, right? So you're not even satisfied with knowing the one definition. You have to have several definitions.
Right, and they're all multisyllabic words that just...
Marty's, look at you, Elliot Offen.
Didacticism.
You can't help yourself. You're the only one that understood that words, and Elliot Offen was going on with rant.
Right, exactly. I knew exactly what he was talking about.
Flamered is a bit of an echo gentleman. It was Flamered is Joni from Ireland, and she sounds right. This isn't some like stereotypical thing that American slobs do, but she really did sound like Sinead O'Connor. She really did.
I agree. Yeah,
and that's a compliment. Kathy Smith, welcome, Kathy. This is not the day for. We're gonna do it. So she sent me these timestamps of the Louisiana prison where she grew up and all the things that relates there. It's crazy,
In that
crazy.
documentary you
Yeah,
found?
from
Yeah,
1998.
very cool.
Gunga Din's right. Hartford Whalers do have the best fans. Hartford Whalers is such a weird city to have a hockey team in Connecticut, and it's just it might be the most obscure team in professional sports that you just forget about. And I wonder when I was a kid, like what it would have taken to just if you drove to Hartford to watch the Whalers, like what it would have cost. Like who would go like on a Wednesday night in like 1986 to watch
Yeah.
Ron Francis? What would that have cost?
It's
You
it's
know,
before
like
the Delabates were living there, I assume, so Gary wasn't going.
Autobot goes, yes, Arm Washington is the highest suicide rates, and we produce the most. I didn't realize the serial killer one.
Hmm.
I'm not a like a great weather guy. Like I don't really care about if it's nice out or not. Like I
Yeah,
just resign myself. I need like my depression's deeper than worrying about the weather.
sure.
If the weather's controlling my mood, I'm really in trouble. You know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
can't let that too many people. It's a nice day out. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't. That's you got to have more going on than if it's a
Y
nice day or not. It's
your emotions, the goal of living one's life is that you can control your emotions internally as opposed to being controlled by external forces you can't control, you
right. Well said. That's you'd make a great shrink.
know?
You really would. I really think that in your next life, hey, you're young. You're only
I
98
could do
years
both,
old.
yeah.
You can do both. Why can't you be a shrink slash composer? Who?
It's so funny you say that because I'm probably going to start a new YouTube show called Film Music Therapy, and it's
That's a
too hard
great
to
idea.
explain now, but
No, I understand it well.
yeah, it's basically like a nerdy show about like kind of deconstructing movie scores, but also talking about how you know how the industry can be really brutal and how don't let it get you down and always focus on craft and like a lot of the stuff that we actually kind of talk about here,
Yeah.
where just
How it's
the
not merit
people
based
it's
skills, not yeah,
exactly right.
networking yourself. Gunga Din. Now I got news for you. Now some of this is he's NYPD Blue is very gritty New York show. You know what the problem with that show is? I swear to you, it's not shot in New York.
Hmm.
The exteriors are, but they're not. So they show you
Right.
like the cutaways and stuff, and that's fine. But it's not the bulk of it. I need it to be shot in New York. So show like the Equalizer from the '80s, that was utterly and completely shot in New York,
Okay.
and you can tell they're walking around. You see the streets. You can prove it. With that show, they do a masterful job of pretending that the shot. I swear to you, Gunga Din, it's not shot in New York.
Interesting.
I looked it up immediately. Patreon. No, I'm talking about YouTube, A. Smith, with the Seinfeld theme Sara made. 4 seconds.
Yeah.
I can't believe Showtime passed on the third season of Flatbush Misdemeanors. It was such a good show. I don't know that show, Josh
Hmm.
Foster. To check that out. I seriously, do you know that show? Flatbush
I've never
Misdemeanors?
heard of that. Yeah.
Huh. Finland Island is with the town I grew up in, Sayville, Long Island. There's a bar right at the end of the where the railroad station is. And
Hmm.
you can say it sounds depressing, right? But it's an homage to Brooklyn, and it's called the Flatbush Pub because the Brooklyn line on the train is Flatbush, Brooklyn. So you
Yeah.
go, and then that's the Brooklyn line, and I guess that was their people were commuting from that town, and I guess somehow people were moving from Brooklyn to Long Island, and Flatbush is the main hub.
Yeah.
And I think it's considered to be the biggest subway terminal in all of New York.
That's very, again, just like we were talking about on the Seinfeld watch, that's a very cozy image to me, a bar at the end of the train line. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, very old New York image. And we played a clip of Tom Hanks in Punchline, and
Yeah.
it's shot in New York. It's shot in they shot it in '87, I think, and it's shot in Harlem, which is weird because I guess Harlem must have had the most real estate for them to play with where they
Right.
could pay for it. It was much easier, and they made a comedy club called the Gas Station or the Gas Stop, was it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
125th and like Broadway or something, or fucking Amsterdam, possibly. And it's a weird area, and it looks like it's just that gritty, struggling comedian scene. But there were no clubs there in the good old days where Catch a Rising Star used to be on 78th and First Avenue, and
Yeah.
that's not there anymore. And they moved. It's supposed to be Catch a Rising Star and the Improv, and they moved it and they shot it in the area of Harlem, which is there's nothing over there. I mean, there was no comedy clubs over there, but I
Right.
did not know that when I originally watched it. Lanny Poffo,
Interesting. Yeah. By
fascinating
the way,
world. Go ahead.
just quick side thing that I think is funny and has nothing to do with anything. I was thinking of Tom Hanks movies from that era, and I thought of Turner and Hooch. The
Yeah,
movie he did with the dog. And I remember seeing Henry Winkler, who was in that movie, on
forgot about
Andy
that.
Cohen's show, and he insinuated that he and Tom Hanks did not get along, which I think is hilarious because they're the
Who doesn't get
two.
along with either one of them?
That's what I'm saying. It's like the two nicest guys in Hollywood by reputation could not. I mean, and I wonder if like it's at a time when Tom Hanks hadn't done like Philadelphia yet, so he's maybe kind of a young upstart, and maybe he had a little ego on him working with Fonzie, but I
Well, you
don't
say
know.
Fonzie. Did you know that Tom Hanks is on Happy Days?
Oh, I didn't know.
Right. So
In
the
addition,
jump the shark seat, which is what the
yeah,
damn phrase was created for. Fonzie ends up. This guy, this high school dropout, has triple income at some point towards the end of the show. With everyone, I love Happy Days. They're in Milwaukee, but everybody's got a New York accent.
I know.
um, so at one point he co-owns Arnold's after a fire. He
Right.
owns his own garage, and he's teaching auto mechanics at Jefferson High School all at the
That's
same time.
right.
So he's tripled and still living over the Cunningham's
Still,
garage.
right. It's like Jerry like being able to buy his parents a new car, but he still lives in a shitty one bedroom and
Yeah.
on West.
So Fonzie was I guess a bully when he was a kid, and Tom Hanks was the kid he bullied, and he comes back as like a martial arts master, and they have a duel in Arnold's. It's a weird show because it's almost like the Super Friends, where I don't believe a punch is ever thrown or connected on Happy Days. All they do is brawl and have rumbles with gags,
Right.
and not a single punch is thrown on the show.
They just it's an entire series of grabbing guys by their collar and nothing else. Right?
It's like they were under the Saturday morning broadcast standards and practice things that the Super Friends were
We're on
under.
in the family hour, so we can't be throwing punches.
And he played a bully, and he does like a roundhouse. I think he connects with like Fonzie says, "I'll give you one free shot," and he hits
Wow.
him with this kick. And I haven't seen this in decades. I think so. He hits Fonzie in the chin, and Fonzie does this slow motion run back into these saloon doors and falls, and the audience is like, and then there's like this moment of silence, and Hanks is like gloating, and Fonzie gets up and then brushes himself off, and the fans go and the audience goes crazy.
Of course,
I gotta watch. You're making me want to watch that again.
Oh,
Fonzie had like superpowers. He was like his thumb versus Mork from Ork's finger, and they're like jousting with like he's bending the space-time continuum and time traveling with his thumb. It was so ridiculous.
I remember because I would watch obviously that show in reruns, and I was always hyper aware when it was an episode from like the end of the series because the actors got so lazy about like Marion Ross is just like walking on from off camera to deliver her line lazily and then walk off, and like and of course the plots got ridiculous, and it was crazy. But yeah,
I never
have to watch that
stopped
show
loving
again.
Happy Days though those years. I didn't think anything of it. Jumping the shark. I know that Richie left and Ralph left, and I was just like I still, as long as Fonzie was there, I was fine. I didn't care. I liked them showing him grow up. Fonzie I think he was 29 in the opening season of the show. They show him in high school, and they're almost like you would think he was a pedo because they're hanging around the malt shop in their late 20s still with high school kids.
Yeah.
It's such a weird show.
Very strange show, but also different time. I mean, people didn't think in those terms in that time, but
No, you didn't. You just
it is
enjoyed
strange.
whatever was on.
Yeah.
It was so huge back then,
Yeah.
and it kind of dovetailed off of what was it, American Graffiti?
Yeah, right.
So
Because
with
Ron
I
Howard
know
was in
you worked
that,
on
and
you were a composer on that soundtrack.
yes,
I
of
know.
course, yeah. And then George Lucas hired someone else for Star Wars, and I never had a career again.
It's so weird, this Star Wars connection to American Graffiti.
Isn't it? Yeah, it's that movie is so strange because it's like the starting place for Richard Dreyfuss, and he goes on to do Jaws and
Oh,
have a career, and I forget who else is in that movie. I haven't seen it in a while, but yeah.
oh, Ron Howard's in it, and I think
Right.
is Carrie Fisher in it?
No, Carrie Fisher's first movie was Shampoo with Warren Beatty.
Uh,
That was a couple years after. I forget who the
you
women
and
are in
Warren
that
Beatty
movie.
had a falling out, right, in the '70s.
Yes, I mean, I was getting a lot of the women he wanted. So.
And you're like, I'm Rock Hudson.
Yeah, exactly. Not trying so hard.
I think Shirley from Laverne and Shirley was on there.
Oh, what's her name?
Cindy Williams.
Cindy Williams. Yeah. Oh, that's right.
So there was a lot of those, carryover from that spilled into Happy Days and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Gunga Din. Yeah, NYPD Blue. It's so. But I'm not doubting the exteriors. The Wire is a very good show. It can be. I didn't love it as much as I was supposed to love it. When I watched it a little bit later, I thought it was a little slow. It needed something. I think it needs. I don't know. The cops were. I like some of the cops. It needed some more charisma. I don't know. Something's bothering me about that show. I wasn't hooked on it. Like, and I love gritty crime dramas like that. There was something off about it. I remember there was one season where they just spent the whole season on the docks in Baltimore, and it was a weird departure. And I couldn't understand how it. I need to get back to it. I almost finished it, and I didn't. It's like, for me, it was like an 8 out of 10, not a 10 out of 10. And people were making it was oversold to me, I think, is what the problem was. And I like a lot of things about it, but
I need to force myself to do a binge of that show, because I think that's what happens to me is people oversell things to me, and then I don't want to watch them because I feel like not everybody could possibly like this thing,
Yes, show arm love in the super chat. Sarah's a great and shout out to Sara, who's, they say bad things come in threes. She's going through some stuff. I'll let her tell her story, because it just doesn't end. It doesn't end I swear to God, and there's no hyperbole here. I'm not trying to be maudlin. It just comes in. I told you about it before we went on. It's horrible. Over and over again. Dealt one bad hand after the next. The only one I compares that is my cousin had a thing like this in threes. I couldn't believe it. Josh Foster says, when I saw Happy Days as a kid, I had no idea they all had what was considered New York accents at the time. It was pre-internet and cable TV. That's how anyone I ever knew to that point in my life sounded. He's right. So if you grew up in New York, you're not even thinking about the accents.
Right.
That's what we sounded like on Long Island in New York City.
Oh, that's funny. I never thought about that.
If you meet people from New York now, and I'll say this to you because you're a pretty good example of that because you're on the young side. Your generation and younger, and I'm going to start with your generation and younger, 98 years old and younger, you seem to have eradicated accents, geographical, provincial accents. The kids that I meet from my nephew's age, they don't have New York accents anymore. We did as kids. They don't have that at all. Kids don't. You cannot tell what a Long Island accent is from the new generation.
I think a lot of the influencers their age who rise to prominence are either from areas that have like my kind of accent, where I don't think I have like a out and out Midwestern accent. I think I'm kind of a eunuch with my accent.
Oh my God.
And so
it's a Jack Sparrow word.
Oh yeah.
He called Orlando Bloom a eunuch over and over again.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh, that's great. Right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
That's such a great movie, The First Pirates.
But I think that because kids are so tuned into their phones now and watching influencers and these people are their celebrities. These people are their primetime television. And so I think that they get a bigger sense of the country, they get a bigger sense of the world, of what kind of people are out there, and they just kind of average their accent down to the lowest common denominator in terms of it losing its regional thing that it had. So
regional grab or influence or hold over.
Influence, yeah, exactly.
How about even stuff like, you're playing video games online with headphones, right? And you're hearing people from all around the country, right? And you're just going, do I sound like that? Or you hear yourself, you're hearing yourself back when nobody else would.
Right.
I remember when I first heard myself on WFAN making wacky, as a caller as a teenager. And we would record it, on audio. I'm like, what is that awful Long Island accent? And it really made me correct it. I hated the sound. I hate the sound of my own, but it's bad now. It was so bad then, and we all had it. And I remember hearing myself back and go, God, I got to correct that.
Yeah.
But that's how I did. Nobody else could do that. You weren't like, how many people were calling radio stations as teenagers that could hear themselves back like that and just going,
unless you, because they're not replaying, and unless you're doing a audio cassette tape recording of it, you're never going to hear it.
Flamer goes, Finland and Ireland have the highest Shuichide rates because of the overcast winter days, even without polar night and 24-hour darkness.
Oh,
Seattle, well, it makes for great art too, right?
Yeah.
I've always been fascinated by the world of infundibulum. This is Lanny Poffo. Infundibulum, says the genius. He's a wrestler. He's a poet.
Okay.
They called him Leaping Lanny Poffo, the poet. He's Randy Savage's brother. Randy Savage of Miss Elizabeth fame, who was Johnny Depp's girlfriend in Jump Street.
I just looked that word up. Infundibulum is a funnel-shaped cavity or structure.
We got to put definitions of these words like in the description. I'm gonna start doing that if we can remember to do it. It's just Flamered says, Joe, and he goes, I teach English 1 million words, and the most stolen, but that's the most colonial Irish bias speaking. 1 million words. Are they all necessary?
Yeah, right.
I had an English teacher who says that we were talking about Depp actually on Gunk. I said that we used your Hunter S. Walken thing, and how he takes, and this I noticed this during the Fairfax trial. He would take the pauses between words, and he would sit there and labor for 90 seconds, pauses between words, and then say the most basic word. I'm like, it took you 90 seconds to think of the word.
Yeah.
Arrest. You know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna pause for 90 seconds, come up with what was the word you just used?
Infundibulum or something. Yeah.
Come up with that. But don't. He was using. So he would. I'm like, this better be good if you're taking 90 seconds to form your next thought. And he wants to sound tortured and pained, and I'm deep in thought, and I'm intellectual, and if you're gonna, like I said, you're gonna waste our time with 90-second pauses. You better come up with an infundibulum.
I remember. I remember a moment like that in the trial where he was like, I hate to think that I'd be described as this cocaine-fueled, and he took this long pause, and I think the word he used was like ogre or something. And
it's like, right. It shouldn't.
There's a better word than ogre.
But he knew it in the moment, and he paused to say ogre.
Right, that's part of the performance.
He's thinking of it. There's no way he didn't think of it. It's just the strangest thing. I'm going to call him out on the affected pause. I think a lot of it's a put on. I can't. And you've heard him speak in the past, like way before. Either his brain is fried or he's taken on this Hunter S. Walken accent where it's completely affected. And I don't buy that he can't think of you're pausing for 90 seconds and you come up with a basic bitch word. Make it good.
Yeah. I agree.
If you're going to waste your time on that. And all the information we're losing out in the trial as you try to run out the clock. It could have been like 50 questions asked in the time you're pausing. More information. Jamie says, did Sara ever say what happened to her dad? Because it seemed unexpected. Yes, she did, Jamie. She did. Her dad passed away natural causes. I'll let her tell the story because it's not my bailiwick or it's respectful. But yeah, he passed away of natural causes about 2 weeks ago, and the problems come in threes. I'm telling you, she's going through it right now. The accents in Ireland have neutralized in the past 20 years or so, says Flamered. have a U.S. Mid-Atlantic, they call it. I thought everyone from New York sounded like Fran from The Nanny. Oh, that's so funny. By the way, how did she not make the cut as a Seinfeld girlfriend on that show?
That's a good question. I wonder if they shot The Nanny was shot in a different lot, and The Nanny started in 1993 and went to 99. So I wonder. Jason Alexander was on The Nanny. Actually, he played one of Fran's boyfriends. Actually,
while he was on Seinfeld.
I think he was on The Nanny in the last season, which would have been the first year that it was just one episode. It's not like he had a character arc or anything. It was just a guest spot.
Davvyd, you cut out?
Oh, sorry.
Guys,
am I here?
You hear Davvyd? Did he cut out on me?
Sorry.
He may have.
Can you hear me?
No, yeah, now I hear you. You good?
Okay, sorry. No, I was just saying. So Jason Alexander guest starred, I think, in the last season of The Nanny, which would have been the first year that Seinfeld was not on the air. So the 98-99 season. So it was just one episode that he guest starred on.
Seinfeld was over by 98.
Yeah.
So he was
able. And he went one more year.
Now it's his Jason Alexander's career post Seinfeld's really interesting. He just jumps around. He's on so many things. They tried the Bob Patterson show. They gave him sitcoms, and he has a guest spot on the Bryan Cranston Fox sitcom. Help me out.
Malcolm in the Middle.
Malcolm in the Middle, and he plays a guy who he plays chess in the park. He just gave up on life, and his whole day is playing chess in the park.
Yeah.
And Malcolm has to give him a pep talk to get back into life. Like he's just given up.
Interesting. Okay.
And
I'm gonna give that show another chance.
I'm not saying it's all good. I'm saying that I think he got nominated for like a one-shot Emmy for it.
Oh, interesting.
I swear to God, I remember seeing some hubbub about this episode. And there was like, they were running promotions for it and stuff. And it wasn't, the wacky comedy they do, with the weird,
right.
Like that show has this style that like, Scrubs stole from, that
totally
weird kind
like
of
the dramedy.
Yeah. No totally laugh track, but it started with Parker Lewis Can't Lose, believe it or not. And another Fox show. It's a Fox thing. Josh says Lynn Samuels. Jesus. That's an old host in the New York area. So I would love to hear that, Josh. I really would, if you could find it. Welcome, Kylo Sierra Alpha. George Costanza. Yeah, Jason Alexander was in Shallow Hal with Jack Black. That's right.
Gwyneth Paltrow.
He has that monologue about the ugly duckling syndrome, where a hot chick who's ugly when she's young is forced to develop a personality. So when you meet a good-looking girl who has a great personality, like, how is that possible?
Right.
Because the theory is that she had the ugly duckling syndrome.
That's funny. Okay.
But John O'Reilly used to call Mike Francesa as Harry from Forest Hills. Harry was my sister's cat. Some of the calls made it to YouTube. Yeah, I used to use friends' last names as my first name and then make the town up. When I was banned like 4 times. I called this Reed from Baxter, Long Island. There's no Baxter, Long Island. And Reed Richards is Mr. Fantastic from the Fantastic Four.
Okay.
And the Baxter building is their headquarters. So I told the caller, and Reed from Baxter, Long Island. And at the end, after they knew it was me, he goes, that was Arm. There is no Baxter, Long Island. We looked it up. There's no. I mean, because I've lived in Long Island my whole. He lives like Long Beach or Lido Beach. He's like, I've never heard of a Baxter, Long Island. I don't know.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. Actually, did you ever hear me call Francesa like a few years ago? Zoo talking about Emily Stern.
Oh yeah. I did hear that one.
Yeah, we should play that on here just for the hell of it.
My favorite will always be the calling as Vanya to Sandra Bernhard. That is my absolute favorite call you ever made.
Well, it's a Depp impression. That's right. Yeah. That one's.
It's the best.
Okay. We got to play that again. I think JD was stressed. This is Flamer making excuses for Depp. I think JD was stressed in the stand at Fairfax. He pauses. Yeah, I do believe he's stressed out. Sure. However, when he came back for the end, he had more fluid responses. His older interviews are his older interviews are very much, great word, fluid and seamless. And it doesn't make sense that you would go back to that speech. You just wouldn't, right, Debbie? Could you imagine yourself like your speech gets 5,000% slower a couple decades later? It's not It doesn't happen to anybody unless it's you concocting that, and it's effective.
Right. I'd be curious to watch the Jeff Beck interview he did on Sirius that happened like 6 months later, because I don't really remember if he had the same pacing in his speech cadence in that interview.
Well, I'll show you one. If you sit in with us, we did the Platoon documentary. He's way different in that. And that's not that long ago. The Charlie Sheen produced Platoon documentary from like, I guess it's 6 years ago. He's way different in that. You can't believe it's the same guy. He's so
interesting because he's fluid and quick to make a point and all that. Okay,
yeah. Josh and John O'Reilly, I think, and this isn't some braggart thing because there was like 4 of us. I think I was the first one banned from WFAN in the history of the station. Just over and over again, we got bored with just talking straight sports, and we just started fooling around, and I can't even go. Mike Breen had to call my mother. Mike Breen somehow got my phone number off maybe caller ID or something. I mean, because we would prank him off the air and stuff.
Right.
So Mike Breen, who's the NBA play-by-play guy now, he's like the top. He's been for years. He was so like rattled by it that he called my mother when I was like 16 or 15 and got her on the phone. He's like, yeah, he calls us with fake names all the time. He's calling me in the office and leaving messages. And I really think you really need to get a hold of it, get a handle on this. It's just, he's really disruptive. He's really,
that would be funny to call a radio station and be like, I'll take my prank off the air, please.
God, if I could get those calls back. There's no way. I don't know if somebody just like excavates every WFAN show from like the late 80s and early 90s. It'd be amazing.
But someone has.
Let's go here. Let's do some stories here.
Can I say one thing before we jump in? The one thing I do remember in the trial where Depp got a little speedy was Rottenborn was questioning him about like an article. I remember this moment in the trial where he's like, is this the article? I think it was the article that, the hit piece that came out against him. And he's like, well, I don't know. Is this the one that's in print, or is this the internet version or something? Like Rottenborn's trying to get him, but it's like 2 different versions of the article in terms of what kind of media it is. And he was kind of fighting with Rottenborn a little bit. And he was very quick in his comebacks there.
Yeah, he had to get him irritated to do it. But if you hear him on the Amber Heard tapes, he's completely sped up. There's one tape Sara and I fixated on where he is talking 40 times faster than he did during the trial, and it was bizarre that it's the same person.
Yeah, right.
I got to find that specific point. There's like a 10-minute period, one of their therapy recordings, and he is all sped up. He sounds like he's on something. Yeah, Kylo, same exact thing as Steve Langford in Sour Shoes. I'm 16, and Mike Breen calls my house back. And I don't know who picked the phone up. About that. And she's talking to my mother, and she's like, no, I don't know. He just does. He calls, and I don't really know. I can't. I don't know. I'll tell him he calls me, and I'm just like, I'm in the background listening to this and stuff. And she just sort of like, she didn't know what to make of it. It was almost like, I think they try to do the thing like, oh, your phone bill's got to be crazy high because you're calling from Long Island and you're calling Queens and you're staying on hold all this time. It was Breen is such a effing weenie, such a dickwad. Yeah. He tries to come off as just like howdy doody nice. I'm telling you, he's an absolute prick. Oh my God. That just made me terrorize him 10 times more after he did that.
Of course. Yeah. I love how he's going for the angle of like, well, his parents are probably ball busters too. So maybe if I appeal to them with the phone bill excuse, they'll make him stop.
If you want to bring this out to Howard, him and Dave Sims, he was Dave Sims, and Dave Sims is the play-by-play announcer for the Seattle Mariners, and he was an FAN guy, and he's just a play-by. So he used to host shows. WNBC, Howard's old WNBC, had a sports show at night called Sports Night, and Howard had just moved to K-Rock, and Imus was the host, and they hosted a sports show, and we started terrorizing him all the way back then. when he was hosting the sports night show, and then FAN scooped him up, and
That's
it was
interesting.
something about him that made it like fun to terrorize, because he
Sure.
so tries to be normal and straight that it made us go harder on him.
Right. Trying to break him.
Yep. God, I wish we could. Yeah, Ed Coleman and Dave Sims, the Soul Man and the Coal Man. One time I called them, Josh, and I said, I go, I want to ask you guys a question. He goes, like, I don't know. I made a fake name up, and I go, Imus calls them the Coal Man and the Soul Man. He's like, I don't. I go, I understand why Ed Coleman's the Coal Man. It's a play on words, and it's cool.
Right.
Well, why is Dave Sims the Soul Man? And Dave goes, well, because I'm black. And I'm like, what? You're black? That's crazy. That's because he sounds like an uncle. He sounds white. If you hear
Like
him,
Robin.
yeah,
Right.
you have no idea he's black. And he's like, oh, that's fucking arm again. I go, you're not black. He didn't say fucking, but he said, because
I know.
arm again. That was, I think that's the last time I spoke to Dave Sims. It was very much, I want you to go to jail. I think Mike Breen would have prosecuted if he could. He terrorized him so much. And I mean that in a funny way. It wasn't like it was mean. It was just fun.
Right.
They got to get over themselves. I did not see Matt Walsh's clip today, Howard's Fluffy Duty, about the Olsen twins. And I did not see that. I did not see that. I wonder if they listen to us when I see that. Not that we're not the only ones that know about this, but I wonder.
Right.
Matt Walsh is a guy who, is he on Bill Maher's show a lot? He's like a panelist.
He's a right wing podcast host. He's on whatever Ben Shapiro's network is. I forget what it's called. Not The Blaze.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it takes the right wing to go after Howard because they have a political agenda, and it's like,
yeah,
I'll take whatever I can get. Whatever they're just, believe me, he is not the bastion of liberalism. It's fake. There's nothing about him. It's opportunist. It's celebrity star effing. There's nothing about him that's liberal.
I wanted to make this point on, because there was all the Cocktober talk last week, and someone made a really good point. It's like, is heterosexual sex this funny to people? Like
yeah, and we did that, right?
It made me think of like Howard's in the last decade, his becoming a little bit more sort of publicly gay friendly, with like supporting Ellen when J.C. Penney dropped her or anything like that. That has nothing to do with his latent homosexuality. That has to do with his star fucking. It has nothing to do with his sexual orientation.
No, there's nothing noble about it.
Right.
He's all agenda ridden. We call him Wigterior motive. There's nothing about it that he's concerned for anybody else but himself and his agenda, his celebrity agenda.
His sexual orientation still finds, I think he is turned on by homophobia, which is why he gets callers to call in and call Mark Harris a faggot, or whatever it is. I think he's kind of turned on by that kind of aggro, alpha male kind of locker room dialogue and behavior and all that stuff. And so Cocktober is just an extension of that, because it's this kind of smear the queer. It's a month of smear the queer, so he can get off on his fetish for homophobia.
Well, he deflects off his own homosexuality.
Exactly. Yeah. So,
Flaming interesting. Irish and Howard. Howard's not a brilliant interviewer. Brian May's hair is better too. He was a brilliant interviewer, Flamer. I'll be the first to say it. In the 90s, he was about as good as it got. We talked about that, how he had Bill Maher on, and he was drilling him about his book and who it's about, and he used to be. I'm not going to say he wasn't. That'd be ridiculous of it. I thought
he was a good interviewer, unbeknownst to him. I don't think he knew how good he was, because a lot of his line of questioning came out of his jealousy.
Yes.
And
unfortunately, that's what it takes, right? To be bitter and jealous, and it creates like an anger and an energy. Yeah.
And he doesn't realize that. I mean, he may think that he's sort of like shining a light on these cockroaches of Hollywood by his interview style in the 90s, but when looking back, you see that, and because he's so in those circles today, you can look back and say, oh, he was just jealous and insecure, and yeah, it made for some great interviews, but it led to him being part of those circles, you know.
Right. Well said. Howard's Fluffy Duty. Howard 360 gets canceled. You push this, Jenny. You don't get canceled. I will check that out. Howard's Fluffy Duty. I will check out Matt. I love saying names like Howard's Fluffy Duty with earnestly, like with
Yeah.
serious tone. It's funny when you go Howard's Fluffy Duty. I will certainly check that out. I
Yeah.
trust your instincts implicitly.
Yeah. Thank you for your AP reporting. Yeah.
Thank you, John O'Reilly from Sara. I thank you, sir, for all your legalese. I'm constantly quoting you. I feel like I got a bachelor's in legalese from John JOR during the trial. I really do. I really feel that way. Bob Burrs, Robert Burrs says, "What the F am I missing with Sara's dad? I hope it's not that he passed away 2 weeks ago, Bob Burrs. But the problem's coming 3, and she's kind of going through other things. In addition to that, it's a crazy burden she keeps then. And it's her story to tell, but trust me, it's no hyperbole. And I'm not being maudlin. She's going through some shit, and her dad did pass away 2 weeks ago, in addition to other things." Oh, my Bob Burrs over here. I love that name. I don't think I've seen Robert Burrs in a chat.
I don't think,
at a certain point. Have you?
I haven't. He sounds like a famous cinematographer who, if you know him, you
know.
Him.
You're the perfect cinematography name in the credits, Robert Burrs. Josh Foster, thank you, sir. Best wishes to Sara. May the upcoming good times be longer than Greg Oden's career. Greg Oden was the #1 pick over Kevin Durant, and he played like 14 games in his career. And he's like 7'2", and he was drafted too high. He's from actually your neck of the woods too. Ohio State. Old Howard back in the day. It's a great interview. Wasn't afraid to. Yes, Jamie. Yes. Thank you, Bob Burrs. Thank you, Robert Burrs. Sara thanks you. You are so kind, sir, and please come back over and over again. This is an odd time for us. We jumped on. I didn't plan on doing this. I thought I was just going to cancel because of Sara, and I thought, well, she said I could. We didn't want to forego the transcript reading and just talk about some old, some stories and riff a little bit. So here's the first one. Johnny Depp, as you know, is directing this. Not a movie I would have greenlit if I'm running the show. Called Moody, and of course Al Pacino's in it. And when I first heard the announcement of him and Pacino getting, my first thought was, oh my God, we're gonna get back. They're gonna do like a Donnie Brasco follow-up, and so it's the first thing I thought of is, oh my God, we're gonna do my dream came true, a Donnie Brasco follow-up of some capacity. But no, of course, it's a period piece about some old Guinea from the 17th century, and I don't give an F, and I would never. But Depp's not in it; he's directing it, and apparently Christian Bale is in this too, who he starred with in Public Enemies. They're only in one scene together for about 5 minutes in a jail cell.
That's right. Yeah.
Which is the most bizarre thing. And oddly, it's the same way Pacino and De Niro were in Heat. Also, Michael Mann directed, your buddy.
Yes.
And it's the same thing that Heat got. Heat was like, oh, De Niro and Pacino are finally in the same movie, but they're only in one scene together. It's exactly what happens with Christian Bale and Depp in the Michael Mann directed Public Enemies.
God, Michael Mann is such a tease. It's like,
there's an interview with him, Davvyd, in our friend Stephen Roderick does. Who did the Depp piece in 2018. He does another hard-hitting piece on Michael Mann where he calls him prickly, and he goes into that whole thing with him. I've speed read it, and you should check it out. It came out like 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Is Michael Mann 80?
Oh God. Let me
Did Davvyd drop again, guys?
No, I'm here.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Yes, now I can. Is Michael Mann 80?
Let me check.
Because I thought I read that in
he is 80 years old. Yeah.
I was surprised that he was 80. And so Stephen Roderick, this guy, I'm telling you, this guy is Pulitzer. He's the best. He did the piece on Depp in 2018 that we obsess over, and he did a piece on Michael Mann in a very similar vein. It's not quite as long as it shouldn't be. And it talks about the prickly stuff we talk about with Michael Mann. Michael Mann's one of the few directors that Depp does not get along with to this day.
Right.
They had a lot of creative headbutt, which I believe if I'm going to work as an actor, I would love. I bet you Depp as a director is a dream. I bet he is the greatest guy to work for. I think I want to see him as a writer and as a director more often. It's tough to not take him when you know you have access to him. I bet you he has a huge cameo in the movie. We don't know yet, but
Yeah,
I'm guessing he does.
Well, and also because he's an actor, I think sometimes actors like working for other actors as directors who are also actors, because they get it. There's maybe more patience with getting a take right or something like that. There's probably an easier line of communication.
No question about it. And like, he's worked for so many people for so many years, for so many that you have to know, like, okay, this is what not to do on a set. This is what, like, you can't just go by Tim Burton all the time, because that's not realistic. Like, you have
No.
all your cronies and the same people over and over again. You can't. You have to take elements of what the best directors you've worked for, and put them all together, and then not to do this. And it's almost like in sports where they hire coaches. Sometimes the best coaches are the guys who weren't great players. They're sort of like the 12th man and they're just observing everything. Because a lot of times the best player can't relate to what the little guys are doing.
Right.
He doesn't have enough. He just is like, I've just gotten the best of everything, and I just don't know what it's like to build from the bottom up. I've always been on top of it.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's good. From my perspective, like, I've done a lot of things in like the film music department of movies that have nothing to do with actually writing the music. So I've been in the trenches right, exactly. So it's helpful to know what everybody does in the hierarchy of making a movie score, because then when I get to take over as the creative person on the podium conducting the orchestra, I know what everybody's job is, and I can really be as understanding of as possible and create a good work environment.
For all intents and purposes, it feels like Depp is so accessible on these sets that he is observing what everybody's going through on these sets. So he is the guy you want setting the tone from the top up. It can be a horrible experience if the guy that's running the show isn't a mensch. A horrible experience, as we've heard over and over again. So I really think he would be the greatest guy to work for. I just know it. I just know it.
Yeah.
I think he probably goes the opposite of what, say, Maiween does. He goes the other way.
Right.
And it's hard for a guy like him who's been around as long and done as many things to take orders from a Maiween. It's like, look at what I've done. Look what you've done. You're going to tell me how to act in this scene? You're going to tell me what works? I don't think so.
Right.
That's why I think they clashed. I think he looks at her and goes, I can't take direction from her. I can't.
Yeah. Right.
So here we go. This is from Hungary Today. This is the only thing I subscribe. I've been subscribed to this for 20 years.
Finally,
take my credit
paid
card.
off.
It finally paid off. You wasted a lot of money on subscriptions to things on the internet, like from Netflix. And do I even need to watch Paramount Plus? Believe me, Hungary Today, it just pays for itself over and over again.
Oh my God.
So here we go. Johnny Depp is back in Hungary. The American actor is recently photographed at Caroline Garden in Budapest, where the film Modi, directed by the world. I thought it was World Star, that hip hop. It's like, what? Imagine Modi is a rapper and World Star directed. Is being shot. Budapest is the setting for 1910's Paris, in the film about Paris. This is my thing, right? 1910 Paris is my thing. The film about Parisian years of legendary avant-garde, one of my favorite words, Amedeo Modigliani. Did you know John Turturro named his son Amedeo?
Oh, I didn't know that. Huh.
I guarantee you it's because of this guy. I guarantee. And why, like, Pacino and John Turturro kind of look the same, and Depp loves John Turturro too. I guarantee he has something to do with this. I guarantee Turturro shows up somewhere. That's my prediction. You heard it here first.
Okay.
Because this is the guy.
Okay. So Pacino's playing that guy?
I don't think so. I think Christian Bale might be playing this guy. If I had to,
I was going to say.
No, it's some unknown actor. It's some weird. Actor I didn't know. It's some guy I didn't know. So Modigliani is an Italian painter, sculptor who worked mainly in France. It's always France of course it's France. Of course it's France. By the way, and I'm not going to play this time. We'll do it next time. I found more Roman Polanski creepiness, crazy rape with an actress named Charlotte Lewis, who's this hot piece of quasi Asian ass who I first saw in my my Skinamax days with the V Scrambler in a movie with Alyssa Milano called Embrace the Vampire. And apparently she's on his ass now. Is another victim of his. There's a video. It just popped in my YouTube feed the other day. We'll get to it some other time. It's too much to get it. I'm sorry. I diverted from that. The film was taking some Modigliani nicknames set in 1916 in the midst of the First World War, according to IMDb. Modigliani is an Italian-born man living in a spiritual crisis, considers himself a failure, and one night he becomes desperate enough to smash up a fashionable Paris restaurant. Well, that's like Depp and Kate Moss, right? I mean, this is like perfect. Right. You got Vanessa Paradis and the police and the rest. God damn it! You could just reenact that on the run from police. No wonder Depp's doing this.
They should just put the Letterman interview where he talked about it into the movie.
He decides to leave the French capital with the help of his talented bohemian friends, Maurice Otrullo and Shine. What's B. Arthur's name in Golden Girls?
Dorothy Zbornak.
No, I'm Petrillo.
Oh, Petrillo. Sophia Petrillo.
That's it. Okay, so it's not Utrillo, right? It's Petrillo, right? Utrillo and Shaim Soutine. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that right.
I think it's Chaim.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah. Of course it is. It's not. It's never what it seems. Oh my God! So this Zabrowski is almost like Zbornak. It's like you got Petrillo and Zbornak. Right. This is like golden. Where's Sara tonight?
Honestly.
He asked the art dealer, Leopold Zbornak, we'll call him, for money, and is told he cannot leave because an influential art collector is coming to Paris to buy his works. I'm not sold on this. Modigliani mistress, Beatrice Arthur. What is with these Golden Girls names? Modigliani's mistress, Beatrice Arthur Hastings, who believes his genius, convinces him to meet the collector in person. By the way, I watched for you two broads. I watched a few Golden Girls, and I think they missed out. And I know they go to it a little bit.
Yeah.
The real sitcom is B. Arthur as a high school teacher. That would be unbelievable.
Agree. Yes.
Am I wrong on that?
No, I think to have as like a cutaway option, because to see her being like sardonic with a bunch of like smart-ass teenagers would
jousting
be
with high school
amazing.
Kids all the time, right?
There's an episode in the 6th season where who's the guy? We've talked about him before. The guy who plays Greg Brady in the Brady Bunch movies in the 90s.
Christopher Barnes. He played Spider-Man in the animated series.
There you go. Yeah,
that's why I know.
So he's in an episode where he plays like a football player who everyone at the school that Dorothy's substituting at is trying to get her to give him like a passing grade on a paper so he can play in this really important football game. So
what season is this?
Season 6.
Okay, I can't wait for that. I'm going to sit in on that one.
Yeah. So we get a little bit of that with her kind of, cutting it up with.
She really cares about students. In my opinion, she's a female Mr. Feeney.
A little bit. They could have taken her character in that direction, and I actually think it would have been more
Put
interesting.
her on Boy Meets World too with Feeney.
Totally, yeah, because her character is as much as I love her, is only sarcastic and yet doesn't seem to have loftier ambitions for other people as a teacher, and it's like that would contextualize it more and make it better.
Her character is great, because she's a substitute teacher, but like a great one. And she was a teacher, and she cares more about her mother than her career. So she follows her mother to Florida with her from Brooklyn.
Right.
And she's kind of like, she's got like a super, she's bitter, but she's got a super, and always comes through.
She's I mean,
that's how I would.
Rough exterior, but heart of gold. Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Here's a photo of Depp in Budapest.
Okay.
With a Budapestian. I don't even know if that's.
He found the most like 1910. He found the most 1910 turn of the century looking boy he could to like pose with.
Johnny, You got to cut the hair. If you don't cut that hair in a week, I'm coming there with my own fucking shears.
Yeah.
I'm shaving your goddamn head. I'm holding you down and shaving your head. You can't direct this movie with the hair in the face and the cameras. Get the fucking. I'm gonna shave his head. I'm telling you right now. If that hair's not gone in a week, I'm shaving his goddamn head. I'm so tired. You're fucking 60. Stop with the long hair and the hair plugs.
God.
Good God.
You could file papers in that part in his hair too. It's like so pulled to the side.
Yes.
Look at that.
Doesn't that look fake? The part?
It does actually.
Like, who has the part like that at 60?
Yeah.
At the beginning summer, he was shooting an image of the Karlovy Vary International Film Festival at the Gellert Hotel in July. He was due to perform with his rock band of world stars Hollywood Vampires at the Pop Laszlo Budapest Sports Arena. However, the latter concert was canceled at the last minute after Depp fell ill and the hotel was unable to take the stage. This is the notion that he's, just on a downward spiral and alcohols. And hopefully he is. There's nothing. Drinking's not his problem. It's the other stuff.
Right.
You drink as much as you want. It has since emerged that, contrary to initial reports, the Hollywood Vampires will not be making up their canceled Budapest concert. Boo-hoo. I'm so broken up by that. That's the best news in the whole article, actually. Good.
Is he still smoking like multiple packs a day?
That's what I'd love to know if someone's around. If you had, like, your mom is around Depp's age, right?
Yeah.
If she was smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day, would you not
Oh my
have
God.
a sit down with her and be like, you got to stop?
I would. Yes, I would form some kind of intervention. Yeah.
Has there ever been a smoking intervention? A cigarette intervention?
That's a good question.
Cigavention?
I've never heard of one personally, or even out in the world. I imagine they're more private, because cigarettes don't.
Yeah, why would we know, right? Why would we?
Right.
The whole point is it's anonymous.
Right.
Casey Armstrong intervention.
But I think because cigarettes don't compromise your consciousness the way alcohol does, or the way that cocaine or heroin does, maybe they feel like it's not the thing to have the intervention about, because they're not being put into an altered state where they hurt others or something. So maybe it's not necessary.
J.R. Young is right. Howard is this is so funny. J.R. Young, I never heard anyone say this. Howard is a, quote, dry gay guy. That's so poetic. That's so good. A dry gay guy.
That's right. Yeah.
He doesn't participate out of fear, but he gets off on all the details, and knowing the majority of his staff gave gay experience.
I've been saying that since I joined Radio Gunk. He's a voyeur, and the voyeurism is what is his turn on. It's not the attraction to men. People are always. I remember more for me. I remember
more for me.
I remember on a very old Gunk, Benjamin talking about his back problems are all his not refusing to come out, and I disagree. I think he does not want to come out because he's got the perfect setup to get off on his voyeurism.
Yeah. Always have it both ways.
If the staff knows or suspects that he's gay, they're not going to get naked in front of him.
Right.
So he's got the perfect setup. Why would he come out and disrupt that?
We're giving you free, voyeur porn if we know you're gay.
Exactly.
It's not, it's a joke. Oh, look at these gay guys.
Yeah.
Look at this homoerotica. It's so funny. If it's a gay guy asking for it, now it's sexual harassment.
Yeah. The other conservative podcaster, Steven Crowder, there's a lot of articles about him now, like fondling his staffers' testicles and stuff. And it's very Howard-esque.
Yeah.
It's very, I'm doing this under the guise of comedy.
And in the conservative community, it's a no-no to be homosexual. I mean, it's
right.
So homophobic.
They're afraid of losing capitalism.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Bob Burrows was showing up on YouTube to post music vids on Friday night, and there you were. Oh, cool. Tell us plug your channel. What kind of music videos? Your own, or just you're like? I was listening to, because of Downey on when the Howard did that pop-in shit with Downey mentioned Phil Collins. It was the weirdest thing. The whole thing what I got out of that is Downey chooses. It was the weirdest thing. He goes, Howard, I'm gonna choose Phil Collins, Inside Out. I'm like, what a weird choice. So then I listened to it that night, and then I was an earworm, and I can't get it out of my head.
Oh
And
God.
by the way, the guitar in that's great. I had no idea. You really listen to like a corny pop song, and you're like, oh, I didn't realize there's like really good guitar in this.
Yeah, I
The
know.
closing, the ending, the way it fades out, the guitar is really good.
That's always embarrassing where it's like a song is 90% horrible and cringy, but there's like one element of it that it's like, oh, I kind of like this, and I'm embarrassed to have it on a playlist, but I like this one element of it.
Yes.
I think Robert Burns is a Beachy Colkey if he's uploading music videos.
We got to get Jamie. We got to get Joni's opinion on Beachy because she's Irish, and the whole. I can't wait to hear what she says about it. Yeah. And we got to look. Cause you were phenomenal during that. We only stayed on about 15 minutes to go his music. Anyway, you got to go back.
That was one of the funniest moments I've been on the show, going through that stuff.
He literally stole the Jewel title for "Who Will Save Your Soul." How do you not know that? It'd be like me coming out with a song called Jeremy Spoken. Yes. Jeremy Spoke, that's what he would say. Right. Go, yeah, I just thought of that. It's my own idea. I know this guy Jeremy, and he's tortured.
I wrote a song called "You Can't Always Get What You Desire." Like you just change one word of it or something.
Thank you, Jamie. Sara is very much missed on the show. She's got a huge fan base. I'm starting to realize people love this broad.
Sara's the best. Yeah.
Yeah. It's intimidating too, and the cartoon cat and the whole thing. And all I could think of is her cat Camilla when I was listening to that song "Inside Out." And and like a parody song using Camilla called "Inside Cat" because she never leaves. Apparently, Camilla never leaves the house. Davvyd doesn't drop arms, so I guess it's me that's dropping out. Says Kylo Sierra Alpha. I didn't realize.
I wonder if your hearing of the audio is dropping out or something. Yeah, I mean, whatever. It doesn't.
Could be me. Easily could be me.
Whatever.
Howard's Fluffy Duty says, I didn't realize this is the great Davvyd. He is indeed great. It is an honor, sir.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Howard's Fluffy Duty.
Yeah, I think people need to see you in long form. It is a rare to not know that is Davvyd from the chat, and let him know next time he's in the chat. This is the same guy.
Oh yeah,
we haven't had him on Gunk yet, and that's coming soon. I just thought of a great Gunk idea while we were talking about interventions. We need to have Casey Armstrong and do nothing but talk about the intervention that he had. Because completely go back and go through the intervention step by step, how it was set up, what led you to it, who was there, what happened after it. I would love to know more about that. Like a really, I'm so sick of saying deep dive. I guess you have no other word.
I'm the only thing I remember about it is I think his brother was there. And was anyone from the show there?
Yeah, Artie.
Artie was, okay.
But besides Artie, who's there?
Right.
Artie's joke was, I've been to 1 million interventions in my life, and I've never seen in all my life someone coming back from the gym to the intervention. It was the greatest really joke. Funny. The irony of it.
So great.
Yeah. There's a whole segment on it, but I want to get more. I want more information. I think that if we guide him in a way, Jean Dubarry, I've not seen it yet, and it's not really out. I don't understand. It's released in other countries. And Jay Young says it's slow. He's sluggish and low talks the whole movie. He's either sitting, lying in bed, or on a horse. His pretty boy days are long gone, and he better step it up. Well, that's kind of getting to the video I'm about to show you. Thank you, Jay Young. That seems to be just off the trailer. It looks like that. It looks lazy. It looks mailed in. I wish he didn't do it. I knew I wasn't gonna take to it. I could just tell. My movie instincts are pretty acute, without bragging here. I know. Do you have this, Davvyd, at this point in your life when you can watch a trailer and you just know?
Oh, of course. But I mean, the problem is trailers are so formulaic now, where even Oscar bait movies are predictable. Like you can tell if one is like a biopic, one is a historical drama, one is like a coming of age social drama. And all the trailers are made the same from year to year. There might be slight evolutions in style, but in the last 15 years, I feel like I've been able to hone, like, okay, I know what this movie is going to be. It's going to have the low talking, it's going to have this blue gauze over the film the whole time.
Blue gauze.
And, and I check out. I like fall asleep until the feature presentation.
Yeah, you need, at this point, with all the entertainment we have at our fingertips and bad attention spans, you better damn well keep the audience's attention with something. You better figure it out, whether it's dialogue or something. You better keep them there. There's too many options, and you can't have a soporific thing like that anymore. There's just no audience for it.
Right.
They're just using his fame from the trial now, in addition, to launch this movie. It's not getting made if his name's not on it. It doesn't have a chance.
And that's always tough. I feel like at some point everyone gets to the age of 55, 60, and they think what they're doing is cool, and it just doesn't find a general enough audience or something. Like
that's exactly right. We've said this on this show, and you've probably heard it. He's lost touch. This is why he needs my services. He's lost touch with what works. Johnny Depp brags about not watching his own movies and not keeping up with what Hollywood's doing. My question is, and this goes, I could turn this into sports any second. How do you know how to get better if you don't know what's being done? How do you know what not to do if what's being done? You have to keep up with it. Otherwise, you'll run the risk of being redundant. How do you know what to improve on if you're not keeping up with it? You have to get your best work. Keep up with what you're doing and watch yourself. And I'm not any narcissism or uncomfortable. That's bullshit too, because he's got a picture of himself with a plunging neckline in his office, and he can't watch 5 seconds of Benny and
21 Jump Street,
or Jump Street or 2. So in order to get the best work, you have to know what's not being done to not do it, what's shitty and what's good, and then you have to know what you're doing wrong when you watch it. So that's antithetical to a great. I disagree with that, and that's why he's making one shitty decision after the next cinematically.
I think that if you're really smart, at some point making a movie comes down to this kind of mathematics where you go to see Oppenheimer in the Barbie movie, and even if it's not your cup of tea, what do you think the audience is responding to? Because there's probably some philosophical component to the movie, not in terms of the moral of the story, but just the camera work, the acting style, the dialogue, the cinematography, all the elements, and then try to fuse that with what you think is good at the core of it, so that at least even if you feel like, this isn't really the style I would have done in 1995, it's like, well, no shit, times have changed, but that doesn't mean that you can't find your way. It doesn't mean you can't express your voice through the current style.
No, that's so well said. And it just made me think. You always make me a little smarter than my walnut-sized brain deserves to be. And I just thought of this too. Now, Depp always complains about, and I think I'm done with movies. I'm an art of movies. Well, movies, the amount of autonomy he has on a movie, there's no limit to the art that you can impart in the movie. You can control the music, you can control the acting, the dialogue. There's no more artistic endeavor, or like a television Netflix series. Forget what he has the potential to do in a movie is 10 million times more creative than anything you could possibly do on stage with the flippin' Hollywood vampires, which is karaoke.
Yes, right. Absolutely.
There's no limits to what you can do creatively and what he has. And I'm talking about him and the autonomy and the power of the production company that he has. I don't want to hear it.
I completely agree. I mean, listen, I would love to be able to tell directors off, like, I don't care if you don't like my music. I know that it's the right choice. He can. Exactly.
He can say, this sucks. I'm doing it this way. This is the music I want. That's unbelievable creative control.
Yeah.
You've no right to complain about anything cinematically when you have the access he has.
Yeah. So that leads me to a question. How much do you think in his best movies, in his top 10 movies, how much of his performance is the creation of the director or other sort of creative control people? And how much is him?
That's a great question. I mean, this is even further. I can't even tell. Pirates of the Caribbean. He was allowed to create Jack Sparrow, which is the tent pole of the whole franchise,
Right.
and give it a personality and write his own dialogue and base it on Keith Richards and Pepe Le Pew. That's everything. Who gets to do that?
Right.
And they don't get to tell him no.
Yeah.
It's everything he does. It's every movie he's made really since then. He gets that autonomy.
Right. That's interesting. It reminds me of my friend's a friend of a friend is interviewing John Williams right now to do like a retrospective on his life.
Wait a minute, the Cleveland Cavaliers center forward?
No, the composer.
Williams. Oh, the composer. Okay.
The composer. Yeah, Star Wars, all the Spielberg. So he's 91, so they're trying to get him on the record for the last time. And there's a point in his career where he was doing these movies in the 60s and he probably had so many disagreements with directors and stuff. But all I know him for is his sort of endless honeymoon relationship with Steven Spielberg and George Lucas.
Right.
And that he's never been told no, famously, by Spielberg, that he can just do whatever he wants. And I told my friend, like, hey, if you talk to your friend who's interviewing John, ask him, like, what was some of the struggles he had with directors? When was he told no? When?
Right. When's the last time you heard the word no?
Exactly. So there was a point after Star Wars and maybe a little bit after Jurassic Park where I guarantee you if non-Spielberg, non-George Lucas directors are hiring John Williams, they're not saying anything to him. They're letting him do whatever he wants because there is this idea that, like, hey, you're lucky to have gotten me. Do you know how big I am?
Yeah. Right.
And he's worth it. I do think he's worth it to have that attitude, but it's similar to Depp post Pirates, where he had all these great movies in the 80s and 90s and these really interesting curated filmography, and it's like, I'm going to bring that cachet to a franchise movie, and now I can do it all. I can do the franchise movies and I can do the niche kind of interesting curated ones. And
then he has a pit bull agent like Tracy Jacobs telling him they are lucky to have you, and this is why. No matter how humble he will be, he has that T-shirt. Stay humble or be humbled.
Right.
And he wears it all the time, and it's like his agent's job is to empower his brain that they're lucky to have you. That's what an agent does, and that's what the people around him and the handlers do. He knows that he's the one putting asses in the seats.
Right.
Did I drop W? Oh, no,
you're here.
I'm trying to delete I had another window open and I'm trying to delete it because I think it slows down. I didn't realize it was open.
Oh, like the audio.
Okay. Yeah. It was another window. It was another Google account that there's like a Radio Gunk one, and then there's a Deppening one. And the other one was open. I thought it was eating up too much RAM.
Right.
Come on. Yeah, training. So Farmer Justin, welcome, sir. There was that story, right, in Crazy Days and Nights that says exactly what he's saying here. Howard watches 100% training point. That was a story. That was an actual story in Crazy Days and Nights, which I believe 100% sounds completely legitimate. And that's how he gets his rocks. Ted Williams is an awful manager. He could not relate to the young pros. Thank you, Josh. Yes, that's a great example. He's talking about how the best athletes don't make the greatest coaches because they just don't relate to what the little guy's going through.
Yeah.
Hungary's Today paywall has armed guards, says Josh Foster. My personal theory is that Depp, he's kissed 2 out of 3. He's kissed 2 out of 3 of all Hollywood. Those who he hasn't are deathly jealous. He's so well known that you don't know what to expect. I'm not sure what.
I think she's saying like the few women in Hollywood he hasn't had sex with or had a relationship with are jealous.
Is that what I mean, that's what she's saying.
Maybe she'll
him
explain.
And the leading lady thing. I'm waiting to. So maybe she's talking about Maiween.
Oh,
those who he hasn't are deathly jealous. I think it's probably Maiween. I think she's talking about. And she's the director of Jean New Barry. I'm waiting for it to come out in Ireland. We talk about Jean New Barry. Do you know anything about Louis the 15th? He was known for opulent living. I don't know. I wouldn't. Again, it's one of those. It's right in line with what we say. The concept we have on here is, would you see it if Depp wasn't in it? I wouldn't give a fuck about Louis the 15th if I didn't have to relate it to him. I wouldn't give it one thought. There's no way we can learn from it. You can't do, like, I have nothing to gain by knowing from Louis. You know what I mean? Like, what am I gonna do with that now? It doesn't relate to. I can't improve on it. Like, what? I don't know what he's related to. I don't know what the audience is for that shit anymore. I think the period piece thing, Davvyd, is quote jump the shark. I have no use for it. I don't care anymore.
Later in life, when you're running a constitutional monarchy, you'll be glad you'll have seen Gina Barry.
That might be line of the night. That might be highbrow, cerebral, constitutional.
We can all relate.
Yes, of course you can. I relate to the constitutional hierarchiness of the film. Cigarettes, booze. This is Robert Burrs. Hair. What's not to like? Does anyone remember the Great American Smokeout? They had in grades. I do not remember that, Autobot. That's only in Seattle did they do this. We have grade schools to make your parents quit smoking. That is crazy.
Oh, wow.
I've never heard of that.
Robert
Burrs remembers it.
I have a vague memory of a because in the 80s, like on what was that show with there were so many sitcoms that did don't smoke very special episodes, so I remember that kind of thing, but I don't remember like in school programs.
Hungary is becoming increasingly popular with foreign filmmakers with the famous international movie shot around the capital. Most recently, the newest movie of Nicolas Cage, God, him and the sequel of Lord of War has announced the film in Hungary. Furthermore, Hungary Today reported this is, you talk about star power here. This is A-list coming at you over and over again. Patrick Duffy portrayed Bobby Ewing on Dallas is now in the country filming a Hungarian comedy. When I hear Depp, the next name I hear, not Brad Pitt, not Keanu Reeves, Patrick Duffy.
Patrick Duffy
is the name. So,
not even Patrick Dempsey. Like, yeah.
We're not even getting to Patrick Dempsey. God, I would not in a million years would I think Patrick Duffy's name would come up in an article about Depp. Can you believe that we just read a Patrick Duffy was in the same? God. So anyway, I'm on Instagram today or last night when I texted you about Norm Ornstein and our new favorite word. And all of a sudden, there's footage from the set of Modi. Now, you explain to me, Davvyd, how these guys got around the actor strike and writer strike.
Well, because they're doing it.
I'll just play this. It's 10 seconds. It's 10 seconds. Okay. So they somehow have footage of Al Pacino walking around, and you quickly hear Depp's voice at the end of this. It's like 2 seconds. It's such a this is so weird. Okay, I gotta play it a few times. Now you see Pacino skulking towards the camera there.
Right.
This is, I guess, I hate this term, craft service. I don't know why that's even a term. I hate that word. But this is, listen for Depp's voice. It says Christian Bale, Al Pacino, and this guy writes, Iowa Depp fan, thank you for however you captured this, whoever got this. Quick few scenes from filming of Modi in Budapest today. I swear to God, I hear Depp's voice at the end. It's definitely him. And it says, I don't have, in the background. And what do you guys think? It's definitely him.
Yeah.
But it takes a fine ear to catch it. I don't know. You hear that?
I heard it in the middle. Yeah.
I don't know. That's definitely him.
Yeah, that's him.
And I just don't know. Perhaps, Davvyd, you can explain how these people get around the actors' strike and writers' strike rules.
Well, they outsourced it. I mean, if they're shooting in Hungary, then they're not signatory to American SAG AFTRA contracts or WGA contracts. So, people, I think people, even if they're Americans, they can probably go over on a temporary work visa and make a movie overseas.
Isn't that breaking the strike? Though? Isn't that I don't mean breaking it in the legal sense. I'm breaking it in the solidarity sense.
Yeah, it's probably on the same grounds that people got mad at Drew Barrymore or The View for coming back. Technically they could have started those shows up again, but because they're not beholden to a WGA contract. But I think that you know, we only have our eyes on what's going on in this country. I think so.
No,
Maybe
no
Depp
doubt about
feels a
it. No
little
doubt about it.
insulated. Yeah. So
Do you think Depp's attitude might be like, well, screw you, Hollywood. You were not there for me. I'm not going to be there for you. I'll do whatever the hell I want. You
well,
don't have my back during my quote
yeah.
unquote cancellation, which I don't believe in anyway. I don't care about the rules. You weren't there for me. You were willing to dump me from Warner Brothers and Disney, and I don't give a shit. I'll do whatever I want.
Well, maybe he feels like I thought of two things. The first thing is, what has his relationship to Hollywood ever been? You know, has he ever been? I mean, as popular as he's been, has he felt queasy about his being a fixture in Hollywood? You know, and is this experience just part of his kind of only doing passion projects from now on, and it doesn't even matter if it makes money because I have enough money to live 10 lifetimes and I'm just going to do passion projects from now on?
His money thing is a whole other issue because he's not nearly as wealthy as people think. But we're
Fair.
never going to get. He lost that 650 million, which
Right,
he
right.
admits to, and we've seen in documentation. And how do you recoup that? Not that he can't. Actually, have an article that just completely speaks to that, which is crazy that you say that.
Yeah.
J.R. Young writes, not much of the scene. Louis falls for Jean. She bangs her, keeps it secret. Well, very, very poetic. Keeps it a secret. He's serious around his suitors, but dances around with her and stuff. His death special effects looked good.
Huh.
I don't know. I'm so not excited about it. I wish I can't. I can't. It's the period piece thing was like the very first thing I would have taken off the plate if I'm controlling the scripts. So I said no, hell no. I don't care what you do a freaking the Parker Lewis Can't Lose remake over that. No, Sara is freaking awesome. We all agree, Josh, and we all agree, Autobot and Josh Foster. Leave the room and come back, says Sara. Is that to me? She said.
Oh, maybe for your audio, it seems to not be a problem anymore.
Is it not bad anymore?
I mean, it's on your end, so yeah. If I'm not dropping out,
we'll keep it as good now. If I drop out again, I will do that. I will go back and come back.
Cool.
I told you, Kathy Scott's firm in this. He's done acting. I told you. You might be right. I think he'll always be allured by something. It takes the right script to get him back in the game. But as it's fine. I have a comment on what he needs to do.
I also think the trial is still so fresh in everybody's memories that maybe he's waiting for it to fade a little bit before he makes like a bigger comeback, you know.
Flamer goes, that's my point. Depp is way better looking than the actual historical figure he's playing. It doesn't make any sense. And the low talking is what a king, I guess, two is what a king
would do too.
Okay. It's primarily for a Francophile audience. Yeah, that's
French audience.
That's the only thing. That's a way to internationally. That's a way to alienate 99% of the audience.
Right.
Crowder loves dressing in drag. Yeah, Farmer Justin. That's right.
He's a hypocrite.
You don't do that unless you're screaming to come out. I believe it was always his plan to hit the age where he can pull off the same act and pivot to being a musician. I don't know, Josh, if that was part. He always could have done that anyway. There's nothing. That's why he opened the Viper Room.
Right, and like I said in the last episode, watching him play guitar with Bono, I can't believe for a second that he has that remedial a command of the guitar, and that that's the passion he's been separated from for 35 years.
Certainly not all over his face. He looks so bored with it. He looks like I don't even know how that is some substitute for.
Well, let me put it this way. It's, to me, that guitar playing is like, he's had this brilliant acting career, and instead of guitar, he decides, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to play, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star on piano for the rest of my career, on stage. And I don't want to get better at the piano. I don't want to learn how to do anything beyond playing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star.
And yeah, you're right. If you're playing this tired dinosaur rock riffs, you're not getting better because that's been done to death 10 zillion times. You're not going to improve on that.
And he's not even doing the
How
riffs.
would you even get better? Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great point by you again. I watched subtitles. I gave up after 10 minutes, says J.I. Young. I skipped around. He doesn't appear until 30 minutes in. Thank you, J.I., for this insight. And so if you're going to see Gene Dubarry, this is what I did with Chocolat. Show up exactly when you know he's going to show up and then watch it from there. And then hide his thickness, just how Brando did in Apocalypse Now.
Oh.
Yeah, because he's like Zoftig in this, and I don't know if it's by
Right.
design. Who cares? I mean, Depp pulls off skinny fat like nobody's business. He and I
Yeah.
pull off skinny fat really well. Maybe he's just bored making movies. Well, that's my point, Bob Burrs. How would you be bored if you have autonomy over the whole process? He could
Right.
do whatever you call this music and control the soundtrack. How could you get bored with that level of creativity? The whole process. The Hollywood Vampires is boring.
Yes.
The movie, you can do 1,000 things to punch that up to your own vision. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I think the music is bullshit. It's just idolatry. He needs to hang out with Alice Cooper and Joe Perry and not tell them that there's nothing creative in it for him, which there is not, firmly.
And when you say it like that, it's almost like you have to concede at some point that Depp's passion is star fucking. You know?
Yeah. He needs. What did you say? He collects dinosaur rockers like baseball cards.
Right.
He needs to be, and when you have the the access he has, you can be friends with these people as you want. Do you think as brilliant a musician as Davvyd is, he can just call up John Williams and who's Hans Zimmer and hang out with them whenever he wants and go on tour with them? No, he'd have to be you'd have to be give me
on their level, a Danny Elfman level kind of composer. I mean, yeah.
I was going to say, you'd have to be Chris Evans first to do that.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Become Chris Evans, and you can hang out with those composers. And
exactly.
That's what Depp can do. Do you think those guys would have anything to do with him if he wasn't a huge movie star?
I see what you're saying. Yes, I'd have to be like a bigger deal than even Hans Zimmer to get Hans Zimmer to hang out with me. I have to like circuitously circumvent their fame, be more famous than them, and then I can have them fulfill my inner child's dreams of just being around them all the time.
Yes, listeners. Yes, chat. You did hear the man just say circuitous and circumvent in the same sentence. That wasn't me. I mean, I didn't.
Redundant.
That you did not. That's what you heard. Circuitous and circumvent in the same sentence. That's what we just heard. Let's just leave it there for a while. Just sit on that for a while. Think about that. Circuitous and circumvent.
Let's meditate on those words.
Johnny Depp needs to team up with Christopher Nolan. Technically, Farmer Justin, he already has. And it was a big disaster. There's a movie called Transcendence. And the director was a guy named Wally Pfister, who was the second in command of all the Nolan movies. And Christopher Nolan was considered a producer of the movie, and it was the worst thing, the laziest thing maybe he's ever done. And it was a financial disaster. It was really, really horrible move. Transcendence. Morgan Freeman's in that. That's my it's the whole Nolan cronyism crew. It's like, Cillian Murphy's in it, and all the Nolan guys. Nolan has his stable of actors like Burton does. It's the same 5 people over, and they're all in that.
British guy. Oh God, what's his name?
Well, Cillian Murphy is his Depp now. Cillian Murphy is to Nolan what Depp is to Tim Burton now. He's in everything.
Right.
Is it Cillian or Killian? Is it? I don't know.
I think it's Killian.
Okay.
I'm thinking of sorry, 1 second. Michael Caine. Yeah, I was thinking
Michael Caine's in everything too, right?
Yeah.
That's when Nolan's movies. Yeah. A. Smith writes 62-year-olds who smoke 2 packs a day. It's like with an ash. It's like, yeah, I smoke. F off. Yeah, but I mean, he's got so much to live. If you're worried about your kids, right? Are you
right
in your family and just your family guy, and he claims that you're not going to let cigarettes take you?
Yeah, I know.
What
it's such
level
a senseless is that worth? Death. Yeah.
Right. Flamer goes, talk about Depp having more than Ellen Barkin having an issue with him. He's kissed Kimmel a lot, but I think the age. That's just that he's talking about like Amber's trying to. I don't know. There's some rumor that I think he's bisexual. And I don't know if she really said that or not. I don't know if it was
Mhm.
if she's actually said that. Unless I see her saying it, I'm not believing any of the fucking. It's this the Amber Heard hater. You know, the all women hate
Right.
each other, and hers. It's a whole other level. Now we're making quotes up and stuff that he's. She may have said that jokingly. If she did, that's look. I'm kissing a guy. Ha ha ha. That's what that was. It was bad. It's just that hack thing you do. Look, I'm kissing a guy
Yeah.
when you have nothing. That's what Howard makes his bones on
How do
stage.
you think Howard exactly? How is
Right.
Howard able to get away with it? He knows that it's hack comedy, but he can still get off internally. You know.
When you have nothing to do comedically, kiss the guy in front of you and we'll all
Yeah.
just lap it up. I
Right.
was talking about Depp having more than no. Davvyd, what's your feelings on the actor strike now? How's it going to turn out? What's your opinion on it? Is there a resolution in sight?
I have
Is
no
Josh
idea.
Foster?
It's really not my it's not really affecting me because I have other music work that has nothing to do with the movies. I don't really know. I feel like I think they are coming back to the table for the writer's strike. So that may wrap up a little bit here, but I have friends who work in like music preparation, and they say like, ugh, stuff is drying up. Like it's finally caught up where the movies that were halted, you know, or the movies that just got in under the wire before the strike started, we just wrapped those up, and there's not much coming in.
Well, those guys
So
must be pissed off. I mean, like it was actually a Depp. We played a clip of him going. You're worried about not the writers and the actors, it's the other people that are put out, and that's the whole thing with the Marr and Barrymore controversy, them going back. You're trying to make those other people are missing out. They're not in the same union. They're just as talented in their own way. There's movies where the music is better than the goddamn writing or the acting, right? I
yeah,
mean, I can think of, right? I mean, so there's so many like that, and there should be like with the writers. I think they don't realize how replaceable they are. How I mean, there's people in this chat right now that can outright how so much of it is off luck or cronyism or nepotism, and you're not that talented, and you're very replaceable, and you're a hired gun on individual. If like I say, if I'm a construction worker and I'm a creative guy and I build a sidewalk or a
yeah.
road, I don't get paid residuals every time someone drives on it. You were
Well,
hired
yeah,
to
but
do that specific job, and I don't I
that's
don't
a
feel
public
sorry for them.
thing. I think that the problem is that if you don't like a TV show or movie, I think that it's a tricky thing because the person who's paying you is going to maybe make a lot of changes to your script or force you to make a lot of changes. It happens to composers all the time too, where I've had to write music that is bad because the employer wants me to do something that's more in their vision, and they just have horrible taste. And so I blame. So I think the problem is that there are a lot of talented people in the industry, but they're sort of
Well, it's that whole
sometimes their
thing with
hands are
everybody's got a screenplay under their arm. You know, every waiter and
right.
bartender in Hollywood has, and sometimes those people are better than the people who are working. They just didn't get the shot. It's not merit based. It's bullshit. It's such a dumb. I'll just put it this way: Stuttering John, Benji, and Elisa Jordana are considered writers. That's how dumb that occupation can be at a certain point.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, most of I'll say this, like most of filmmaking is bad. Most of it is bad, but that doesn't mean that the art form is bad. And I think that the people who don't respect how how the art form works are not the ones who get the creative control. I think it's the people who are willing to sort of kiss up to the higher ups,
Right.
and maybe they were passionate at one point. Maybe they were sort of they had the potential to be talented and focus on craft and not focus on kissing up. But they just caved into this idea that like, well, kissing up is just so much easier because
I
then they'll give me my shot, you know.
I've heard so much insight from my cousin who is an actual writer in the
Right.
guild and has been for a long time. And he comes to me with a very honest take. He's like half the writers' rooms I've been in, or all of them, are like 90% of the people in the room are just hired out of cronyism or they just want to hang out with these people in a room at the same time. There's no skill involved. Some
Right.
weird circumstance happened where they end up. He's like, I can't believe, like he takes his craft very seriously, and he's like, I can't believe I'm in this occupation. This guy is on the same level as me, and he's absolutely no passion or skill or training at all. He just got brought in because the showrunner wants to hang out with this guy all day, and he's called a writer.
Well, and one of the reasons I want to start my YouTube show about film music is because I don't think most of my peers are good composers. You know, and it's not that I think I'm the best. It's just that they don't love the craft as much as I do. They may be. There are people who can do things better than me for sure, but I think that in terms of looking out for the art form, that's what I care about, and because it just makes life better for everybody.
Yes.
If you care about the art, like for example, if I'm better at my job, I can just I can justify hiring a bigger orchestra because I know how to handle it, and therefore get, you know, maybe 25 people more jobs to come play on a movie score, you know. But most film composers are lazy. They have a lot of ghostwriters who also aren't talented, and they. Oh, John. Oh,
No, I put myself back in to see if I was.
Oh, you're good.
Pete Cantor said I was cutting out, and you know how how important statistical providence is.
Yeah,
Dan?
exactly.
We saw Providence yesterday in a Bill Maher. That was so funny, bro.
Yeah. So my point is that I hope that as we go on, you know, once the strikes are over and we come back to stuff, that the people, even if there's very few people in every discipline of Hollywood who are actually talented, who actually care about craft, that they can lead the charge in having, in demanding from these CEOs who have no arts background whatsoever, that they have creative control over the product, and then also can sort of make the labor demands to make that vision happen, you know.
The only thing I'll say in terms of pro studios, they're taking all the risk. The writer takes no risk at all. You're taking more of a risk because you're composing music in your own place. The writer takes no risk whatsoever. They're just hanging out in the studio, throwing ideas out, and often it's not used. It's like the owners in sports. They're taking the risk. It's not the writer taking the risk.
Yeah, and I don't totally, you know, they're the writer's room equivalent for composers. Like Hans Zimmer does this. You know, he has a sweatshop basically of 60, 20-somethings that write the score for him, you know. And so that's kind of an equivalent, I guess, where it's just like they're scoring a film by committee as opposed to just, you know, growing up, the composers that I was a fan of, I wanted to think that they were doing everything for it, you know, because it's like I want to think as an individual I could be that insightful into how to, you know, generate the materials for an orchestra to create that kind of music, you know, as opposed to just being a patchwork of all these you know, 60 people at once, you know. So I don't know, I'm not smart enough to sort of speak to the dynamics of like what labor deserves versus if the studios are right about creative people being untalented.
I do think you're smart enough to know the area in which you live in terms of the Vanderpump rulesness of every waiter and bartender with a screenplay under their arm. That I think that the studios are coming at this with, you are very replaceable because we'll just hire that guy, this very talented guy that never got a shot. You need to be. You are not entitled to this job for the rest of your life, which they really believe they are. I think the biggest fear underlying it all is these people say, I cannot shrink back into civilian life. I can't be a teacher. I can't be a school teacher. I have to work in show business. I have to. I'm entitled. This is all I want to do. You don't get everything you want. You know, I don't care. If that's outsourced, I don't care. There's so many bigger problems in the world than you want to work on a CBS sitcom and have an easy day. I don't care.
Yeah. And again, I don't really, my feelings on it are sort of, I have not prepared them enough to kind of speak to it intelligently, but I do want the future to be, you know, listen, I want to be a film composer forever, you know, and I think the difference.
I don't think you're replaceable, though.
Right.
I think you have like a supreme talent. I think when you're talking about like Benji and Stuttering John, and
No,
these
I get
people are
what you're
considered
saying.
writers. I don't think you're replaceable. I think you're a supreme talent and you can prove it. With writing, it's more ambiguous and disposable. If
Right.
whatever
Yeah.
you want to consider the word, what does writing even mean? They've torn it limb from limb. I don't even know what the word means thanks to Hollywood anymore.
Yeah, and I will say they've done the same thing with composing too, just because there's so many hidden people that, you know, yes, Hans Zimmer's name is on the movie, but like there's so many hidden people that are sort of really behind it,
Right.
which infuriates me too, because again, yeah, I think that it, um, I wanted to know when I moved out here that like one individual could write a screenplay, that it was their vision singularly, because that's why I like certain books. It's like it's so interesting that the um the collateral of this author's brain produced this book without any help, you know, and just all the references that they have,
Right.
and all of the craft and everything. And I felt that way about composers, and it was really disillusioning to find out that so many of them um just it's they're just going into this to profiteer, you know. They're not
Yep.
they're not interested in writing music, you know. I understand, like I always tell people, like, yes, it's insane to expect one person to fully animate and render Toy Story. That's insane. Of course you need a team for that, and there's different people who do different levels of the animation. But it is possible for one person to write a screenplay. It is
Sure
possible
it
for
is.
one person to write 55 minutes of orchestra music for a feature film in
Right. Do
8
you
to 10
need
weeks.
15 people in a writer's room to write a Kevin James sitcom for CBS?
Right,
Do you need
right.
15 people in that room? I think any idiot could do that, and it's all recycled, retread bullshit. You don't need.
Yeah.
They don't need that level of people in a room.
Would your cousin come on to have a discussion about that, do you think? Or is he kind of private?
I don't know if he would. That's a good question. I'll ask him. I don't know. I don't
Because I'd
know.
be curious to hear his thoughts.
I think he just said what you said. It cheapens, the fact that there's the Benjis of the world cheapens
Right.
the profession, and he's worked in writers' room with. He probably, I don't know. It's probably revealing. You probably have to name
Yeah,
names, and
yeah, that's right. I don't
he's
want to
just
put him in
he
that
just
position.
constantly tells you stories because I can't believe they hired these people. I can't. It's just there's no. I don't understand what it is we do. Like this. This just wants to hang out with this person all day. They
And
have no business
maybe what
being
it
here.
has to be, right, and maybe what it has to be is like, if there is a rubric to actually weed out
Rubric.
um I swear to God, I'm not setting you
If
up. I
there
don't
is a
know I'm doing it.
circuitous rubric to all this,
If there's a rubric to weeding out the Benjis, but keeping, you know, the Robert Towns and the Patty Chayefsky amazing screenwriters, um, at that point, then it's sort of like that is separate from the fact that they deserve, you know, living wages to do the thing that they're trained to do. Like if I
and
am
that goes
in
for the actors too. You are very replaceable. Johnny Depp is
right,
not replaceable. You are very. You know who you are.
right.
You are very
So
replaceable.
if you know, and I'm not saying this to be braggadocious, I'm just saying if I am entitled to be a film composer for the rest of my life, there are equivalent writers, actors, whatever, that are also entitled to be that for the rest of their life. And so going forward, we need to celebrate craft as opposed to, isn't it cool that Chelsea Handler fucked the producer of this show and
Ted
got a
Harbert.
comedy career?
Ted Harbert.
Right.
That's the best. That's what I love about sports is there's no Benji Bronx in sports. It's all merit
Right.
based, and it weeds out. And the best of the best is always doing it. That's the best part about sports. Killian
Yeah.
Murphy, thank you, Flamered. The God, A. Smith, it's the most homophobic thing you've ever said.
How dare you, A.
Your
Smith?
command of the language he's calling a fruit salad. Is that crazy? But we know that A. Smith is such a sweet guy. He means it in the best possible
I
way.
know, I know.
Could that be your new nickname, David? Fruit salad?
that seems a
Because
little.
your
That seems a
command of the
little on the
language.
nose.
When Johnny Ramone was warming up before a show, he remarked that he doesn't even know how to play. He just looked up in the eye and said, "So what?" That's how I see JD. Burrs, that's interesting. Johnny Ramone. He doesn't even look like he's enjoying himself, Bob Burrs, when I watch that. He doesn't even look like he needs to be around these people, and it doesn't even look like it's doing it. He's staring at the ground and rigor mortis, and his arms aren't even bent. There's no how do you say, dynamism to what he does. He's not running. If I were doing that, I'd be doing like Ricky Henderson slides into the microphone.
Let me put it this way: if the guitarist union went on strike, and there's no guitarist union, but like if there was a guitarist union and it went on strike, I would be pointing to people like Johnny Depp as a reason why we need to weed some people out.
And despite you playing however long it was, I don't care. It's like what we just said about what's more disposable, a guitarist or a writer in Hollywood? What's more replaceable? I don't know, right? For every guitarist, there's one pianist for every 10,000 guitarists in Hollywood.
Right. And then you get a guitar playing writer, and oh, look out.
Flamer goes, my dad is 68 and gave up cigarettes this year. That's crazy.
Wow, good for him.
At 50, he's been smoking for 50 years, and he finally gave it up. Well, welcome, Babe Lewis. Flamer, my dad was 12. G Canada says my dad was told us he's been quit for 11 years now. I guess he quit at 66.
Yeah, so he smoked from age 12 to age 66. Jesus.
But the Canadian smoke's not the same as the American smoke. It's like big. Back then when you bought a single, G Canada, you just triggered him to go into a riff about the healthcare system in Canada. There's no question. He's somehow going to use that as a launch pad. And Johnny should ask Nicolas Cage for advice. The man is bomb proof. Shit moves. Oh, he gives him advice all the time. He bailed him out of tax problems, J.R. Young. Depp, I don't think people realize that Depp saved Nicolas Cage from a weird tax evasion a la Wesley Snipes.
Interesting.
And that
Well, it's the least you could do for getting him a career. Yeah.
Getting him his agent. There's a great, we'll get to that book some other time with his Lori Allison, who Kathy Scott goes back and forth. When Depp and Lori Allison broke up, Nicolas Cage became the boyfriend of Depp's ex-wife right after that. And then they ended up being friends. Nicolas Cage got him his first agent, and then off it went, and they became fast friends. It's a weird kind of masterclass in how you remain friends with your ex. Lori Allison is like there's no better example of that, the paradigm of that. She should write a book, How Do You Stay Friends with Your Ex? And that masterclass of that's a great, I'm sure. I don't know if
that's not a bad idea.
Yeah. Cronyism kills all creativity, says Flamer. Also, formulaic film stories are very boring. Agreed 100%.
Yeah.
Modern day brill building in the movie industry when it comes to the musical aspect. Is that the brill?
Hans,
what's that?
He's talking about Zimmer. Like, yeah.
Davvyd does not have a YouTube channel yet, A. Smith. He was talking about launching it on this show today, and it's coming very soon.
Yeah.
Right? Within what?
Stuff together.
2 weeks?
Probably. I'm probably, I'm trying to get my first video up maybe in the middle of October. So
Midnight Express is a movie where the music absolutely made it a classic. Agreed, Josh.
Yeah.
Good example.
It's a great one.
Agreed. Like and subscribe, everyone. Like and subscribe. Thank you, A. Smith. You are the best. I work 11 hours a day, 6 days a week. He does. We always have a hard time getting A. Smith back on the show. I didn't realize how much he works.
In demand he is, yeah.
I think he's worked while doing a 21 Jump Street watch along. Don't forget to donate to Arm if you can, says Sara. Arm deserves it with that cute cartoon cat Camilla in her avatar.
Yes.
We love us some Camilla. And I'm not even like a huge cat person, but I love that cartoon cat. Look at that face.
Yeah. I know.
Rubric equals Davvyd.
Stanley Rubric.
Rubric. I beg to differ, Arm. Erin Andrews has plowed many an NFL player. I know. That peephole video. You ever see the peephole video with Erin Andrews, Davvyd? She had this thing. This is someone who steps in shit. Like Erin Andrews she's a Fox NFL sideline reporter, and she literally got promoted off a peephole video. Like this guy somehow followed her and then did this reverse peephole on her where she filmed her getting dressed, and it made this national news. She sued the guy, won all sorts of money, and then gets Dancing with the Stars, Fox, like just couldn't. The best thing that's ever happened to her was this Peephole video. It just like one promote. You wouldn't know who she was if it wasn't for the Peephole video.
May he rest in peace, but I wonder if that's how Jillian Barbary got onto the NFL suing Gary Puppet.
Well, she got fired.
She did.
Weather Girl. Yeah, she got fired. The reverse of that. That's very funny.
Okay.
Jillian Barbary did a reverse Erin Andrews.
Erin Andrews.
She has Gary Puppet up her ass every day, and she gets fired for it. Almost all new reboots of Star Wars and Ghostbusters are written by children, tribe members. What a dick. He means tribe as in the Cleveland Indians, Davvyd. You know that, right?
Of course, yes.
Manny Trio and
what else could
Greg Swindell. One of the last episodes of She-Hulk was entirely a meta episode based on show's writers. Jump the shark moment for the writers of Hollywood. Very, very. I saw that. It was very. I'm a big Marvel fan, and I've known who She-Hulk was since I was a little kid. She was more of an Avenger than the Hulk was when I was a kid. She was in the Avengers. The Hulk was never a team. The Hulk had its own. It's not a team. That character does not lend itself to team. And it was She-Hulk that was the Avenger, not the Hulk. Had her own comic and stuff, but she was always a staple in some of the old Avengers comics.
Right.
G. Canada hates cats, especially if one lives in his house. That horrible little creature. G. Canada and cats is interesting. It's true. Davvyd co-writes with Emily Stern. He wishes, Gunga Din. He wishes.
I've been thinking about taking her latest song and doing like put my special touch on it.
Am I the only one who doesn't get the Zendaya love? She's a top 10 character in Euphoria. Overrated as hell. Josh Foster. Ridiculous. Yeah. Good looking, light-skinned broad, but there are Spider-Man characters that could be that. They sort of blackwashed Mary Jane Watson with her, which is bizarre. There's plenty of roles you could write for her without turning redheaded Mary Jane Watson into it. So yes, I think she's massively overrated too. Army, you're an imbecile. They aren't allowed to be called Cleveland Indians anymore. That's racist and obscene. They can no longer listen. Yes, well, why don't tell the Kansas City Chiefs to change their name, or the Atlanta Braves to change it? Why didn't they change their name? Because they won the World Series and the Super Bowl, right? Oh, dear Arm, you have an echo, and you too, Davvyd. Is that true? A delay?
I don't hear it. I mean,
how about now? Do I have an echo?
Am I good? Should I even come back?
Has Jillian Barbary said anything about Gary Puppet? I got her to. She was on Dr. Drew's thing, and I made a Gary Puppet comment, and she was like, "What, that guy who?" And then it just, I got to go find that. Constant clicking, says G. Canada. Do you hear that? Erin Andrews got $55 million from Marriott and the stalker. Marriott was found liable because, is that a $55 million lawsuit? Someone recorded, asked for the room next to Erin, and the hotel never told Erin about it. Boy, that is, couldn't clean up anymore.
Right.
I've refreshed, no change. Weird. Out of nowhere, this seems to have happened.
Maybe,
I'm going to remove you, and you come back. All right.
Okay.
And I'll remove myself. How about now? How do I sound now? Here is your pen. And Davvyd's back now.
Okay. Is this better?
Anything but you sound great to me.
Yeah, you sound fine to me.
I want to show everyone, speaking of money, this is Depp's new you know what? Maybe I'll idle. I want to show you this video first. This is what, in my opinion, Depp needs to do. Sara turned me on to this show called the Cleveland Sports Show, and it's a really good. It's a Cleveland sports show, but these guys know a lot about everything. And I like everyone on. I've gotten used to watching it, and it's just there's so many sports talk shows you can listen to. For some reason, I've gotten into this one. I like everybody on it, and I like the Cleveland sports scene. And so I've been watching this, and they have a conversation about. I want everyone. We're not talking about Tiger Woods or Deshaun Watson. We're talking about Johnny Depp. And listen to this conversation about getting your mojo back after a scandal. So they're talking about the Tiger Woods and Deshaun Watson scandals, and they're talking about how they feel there's a possibility about the great quarterback who used to play for the Houston Texans, Deshaun Watson, may never get his psychological sports mojo back. and he needs to play well for the rest of the season, or anyone's going to remember him is the massage sexual misconduct scandal if he doesn't eradicate that from everyone's memory. And that's how I feel about Depp and Fairfax, how he needs to do good work. I don't care if it's a streaming television series or some movies, or you're never going to stop. I've said this from the day we covered the trial. You're not going to ever not bring that effing Fairfax up and Amber Heard if he doesn't do some good work, stat. And this is what this conversation's about. And they use, this might as well be them talking about Depp. They're talking about Deshaun Watson, and then it segues into Tiger Woods. This is Jay Crawford. I don't know if you know him, Davvyd. He's a Cleveland news guy.
I don't know. Yeah.
He used to work on ESPN, I think, in the days in the mid 2000s somewhere. And he's the host of this, and it's a guy named Pivus, who used to play in the NFL and played for Ohio State, and Adam the Bull, who used to be a New York sports personality who moved to Cleveland, and he's on this show, and they have this great conversation here. And this guy Pivus says the most brilliant thing towards the end, and he's the guy who says, he goes, Deshaun Watson needs to do something brilliant because all you're going to remember him for is the massage table if he doesn't.
Right.
And that's how I feel about Depp and Fairfax. So let's listen to this, and we'll stop it as we go.
Touchdown game.
Stay on top.
Take your pick.
Yeah.
To really get the full, we'd have to do a massive deep dive.
I know. I still think we need
deep dive like
we
I
need
did
more
with Myles
context,
Garrett.
but there is something to that number. In the 5 losses by more than 15 points, he threw for 2/3 of his yards.
No, the majority of his yards.
You hear the way he said yards there?
Yards, yeah.
He's local to the area. Is that a Cleveland accent? Is there such thing as an Ohio accent?
I think we have very harsh short A sounds. So like ham, like we have nasal, like, Sam, I am. Like,
okay.
But that's a little bit more Midwestern than I'm used to. But I don't know where he's from originally, but
he's from the area. He's from Cleveland.
Oh, he's from the area.
Okay,
so yeah, I think
his name's Jay Crawford, and he does the news there now, local. I don't know if he does a sports segment on, but he used to be on ESPN, and they fired him, and ESPN fires everybody, and he's back, and he hosts this show. He's very good. They're all very good. I like everyone on this show, and it really makes me love the city of Cleveland and the passion they have, and they do this every day. These guys.
God, came in the 9 games that were 1-score games.
What was the number?
That's more games, though.
Yeah, there's 9 of them.
I can see if there's a per yard or per game.
Yeah.
Deliver this football.
So is it mental? Do you?
Why
I would have forgotten about it.
Do not buy
Okay, they're crazy with the commercial. Let me work through these commercials.
14-day
Yeah, no problem.
Just listen to all of the terrible things that students in
That's why I couldn't screen record.
Did nothing at halftime,
right?
And then once it was a blowout, he played great, or vice versa.
Yeah,
we don't know.
You'd almost have to been a fan or a reporter and watch every single play that season to tell you of that
the context,
big number. Yeah,
the deeper context.
Was that because there are 2 different kinds of 4,800 yards?
Yeah, I think in the end, it's fair to say he was an excellent quarterback overall in Houston. And he's been an awful quarterback overall so far in Cleveland.
Yeah, that's not indisputable.
As every week goes by, it's going to get harder to believe he's going to turn it around. But I'm not there yet.
Can he?
We're not talking about Deshaun Watson. We're talking about Johnny Depp here. I want you to make the comparison. I'm not, everyone, I open the Depp portal and have Depp on the brain. So I'm watching this and I have Depp on my brain, listening to them talk about it. This is like Depp not getting his movie mojo back. And I'm comparing him to Deshaun Watson. Now it's psychological. The Depp of the 90s and 2000s, is it possible anymore with where he is psychologically to ever get that back?
You've been in pro sports locker rooms.
No. Can he turn it around? This is the thing.
This isn't a bad game.
This is the thing.
This is a bad half season.
It's been 2 games.
No. It's been 8. I'm judging him. Look,
this season.
Like Bull always says, if you're on the field, there are no excuses.
This season. No, because
does he look different this season than last?
About Depp.
No.
He looks exactly the same to me.
This is what I
would have ignored last season if he had played well.
See, and I was never willing to ignore.
No, but if he had played, if he had been great this year, I would have forgotten about it.
I would absolutely have forgotten about it. And you know what? He can make me forget about it.
That's right.
But he's got to be as good.
Listen to this, how eerie this is.
Yeah,
the Depp's
so
life.
Funny.
He could make me forget about it if he would however many good films. He could make me forget about Fairfax.
So the analogy, right? So the analogy is like last season is Fairfax.
Last
in
season
your
is
mind.
yeah.
Right.
And no, well, Deshaun Watson had a scandal where he had this sexual. Sara loves this scandal, misconduct, where he got accused by multiple women on a massage table and they all got together and they sued him and they threw it. And the Browns signed him from Houston to save him from Houston. He's still a young guy. He still has all this talent, and they needed to mortgage their franchise to get him. And they're worried. This was a huge Tiger Woods type of scandal. And it was around and it never relented. And they think the trauma from this scandal and everything, he'll never live it down unless he becomes so brilliant. It's almost like Kobe Bryant and his rape in Denver. And they're saying, you're never going to live this down unless you become great again.
Right. And with Depp, do you consider not just the trial, but also the last 10 years of kind of subpar movies, maybe except for two?
All in there. Yes. The bad cinematic choices. And it's just like this.
But it has been bad.
Right. The biggest problem with Deshaun Watson is consistency, because over his 8 games as a Brown, whether it's been good, bad, or indifference, it still has been something in those games where you was like, it's still there. It's still there.
Said, though, I got it. It's so brilliant what they're saying. I can't stop thinking about Depp in comparison. So what he just said, it's like when I see Depp in City of Lies, I go, it's still there. It's still there. He's still got it. It's still there. He still can get it. Even like Minamata. It's exactly how I feel, what they're saying.
Well, and there are sometimes I get so enamored with an actor or a composer or something where when I see them do something where it's, touted as like a bad movie, this is a bad movie that they're in, I still have enough goodwill built up in my mind from their previous performances or their previous scores where I'm trying to listen for things where it's like, is that them trying to be good? Like you're trying to look for that magic despite everything around you sucking.
Perfect example of writer Farmer Justin says when Game of Thrones ran out of again, Sara knows Game of Thrones really well. Dialogue, the show took a massive decline in quality and creativity. I believe you. I don't know the show well enough. I know that Momoa was on it, and that's why because when he was announced as playing Aquaman, I was trying to figure out who he was, and I was going back and watching stuff. And I know a pedestrian amount about Game of Thrones. It's massive. Everyone loves it. I know that Amanda Pete's husband is the showrunner. But I heard it's kind of slow for me. That's period piece dialogue. It's very Dungeons and Dragons, and I used to play Dungeons and Dragons as a kid. So that part interests me, the dragon aspect and all that stuff. Because that's kind of, when I looked at it, I was like, oh, that's kind of like Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know. Is that what they're going for with it?
I love how what you know about Game of Thrones is how it relates to annoying Beth Stern.
And Aquaman.
Right, yeah.
Thank you, Farmer Justin. Thank you, Josh Foster.
No, but this is eerie. You're right.
Kobe Bryant. Yeah, they're talking about Kobe Bryant. But thank you, John O'Reilly says, yes. So Deshaun Watson, 28 women claimed he was forced to engage in. I can't wait till Sara comments on this. Sex acts. And he threw money at the problem. Some of them relented. Some of them were proven as liars. It's almost Marilyn Manson's going down that road. Depp's thing is, I'm just talking about comparing it or Weinstein or something like that. The Watson thing is a little more innocuous because it basically seems to be call girls, almost like a Heidi Fleiss of massages in a Weinstein kind of way. And it's a weird thing. And I need to immerse myself more. Sara knows it backward and forward because of her Brown fandom. When Watson was claimed they were going after him, she really immersed herself in it. And she believes every one of these women are lying. I don't know. So here we go.
That with Baker Mayfield.
Right. And what's the problem? Consistency. What are the best quarterbacks are? They're consistent. They're going to consistently be good.
It's like golf.
He has to find out how they need to find him. He needs to find a way to be consistent because he got the confidence of his teammates. He got the confidence of his coaches. I've seen him in practice. It looks unbelievable in practice.
Come on, you know that doesn't.
I know about practice.
I know. But what I'm saying is I've seen him deliver this football. So I know he has the ability to deliver this football.
So is it mental? Do you?
Why isn't he doing it in the game? That's the problem.
God, it's so eerie how much this applies to Depp in his career.
I know.
This guy is brilliant. This Pybus is brilliant the way he's saying this.
Yeah.
Even if it's just related, I love listening to this guy. I love everybody on the show, by the way. Everybody should listen to the Cleveland Sports Show if you don't. Even if you're not a Cleveland sports fan. Even if because they talk about all sports, it's just very slanted towards the Cleveland team, which I happen to love. Thank you, Josh. Pete Franklin was a Cleveland guy. I can't believe you remember that. Yeah, I used to call him too. My early days. Kobe Bryant scraped the bottom of the barrel. Colorado. A. Smith.
Jesus.
Here's Sara. Welcome, Sara. Welcome back. Here's the great Sara. 24 women, and there is evidence of corruption. Hey, read the transcripts, you buffoon. There's a reason 2 grand injuries failed to indict. You can indict a ham sandwich. What's that quote from the ham sandwich quote? What is it? Who said that?
I have no idea.
It's a famous legal quote. I don't know who said it. Oh, there's an angry Sara. That's so great.
It could be mental. Question. It could be mental.
Listen, Bull's point or your source's point that he's petrified that he's Tiger Woods. I never really thought that before.
It's a real thing.
But I'm thinking it now. Maybe he will never get over
that. The off the field has destroyed his confidence.
Do you remember what they?
Am I crazy, Davvyd, or am I so Depp on the brain that I'm comparing it? That is exactly what he's going through.
Yeah, can you go back? Can I hear that again? Just those last 15
Tiger
seconds.
Woods, you know the Tiger Woods scandal,
right?
Yeah,
oh yeah, of course.
And now you're looking at Tiger Woods. Did he ever really eradicate that from people's brain? Because he got weird after that. It didn't really.
Yeah, go ahead.
Come on,
you know that doesn't.
I know about practice.
I know. But what I'm saying is I've seen him deliver this football. So I know he has the ability to deliver this football.
So is it mental? Do you?
Why isn't he doing it in the game? That's the problem.
Is it mental?
It could be mental. Question? It could be mental.
Listen, Bull's point or your source's point that he's petrified that he's Tiger Woods. I never really thought that before.
It's a real thing.
But I'm thinking it now. Maybe he will never get over
that. The off the field has destroyed his confidence.
Do you remember what they made Tiger Woods do? I was working at ESPN, and his news conference was going to be in the window of the sports center that I was hosting.
Yeah.
It was actually First Take. And they said to us, you're going to take the whole news conference. And I said, why? Sports?
He's about to go into this thoughtful rant about how we're voyeurs and we get off on Schadenfreude with the Tiger Woods stuff. And there's a lot of that with Depp. It was the Medusa one who's very Amber Heard. She does like a very anti-Depp thing. She's really good. I want to have her on, and she basically did a YouTube episode a couple days ago how she feels guilty diving into his transcripts, like she feels dirty reading his. Right. And this is what he's talking about, the voyeurism of how the stank of this is so rampant that we're never going to move past it. As if you're a fan of Depp, the cinema movie star, talented chameleon.
Well, and I think what I take from this is, you're, as they say, your off the field mental state is informing how you play the game. Depp's off the set problems at home in his marriage to Amber, or any of the public outcry, if public favor was against him at some point, is informing his mental state, and thus your ability to be creative or to be to put your acting practicum into
practicum
into
yeah
action,
you heard it, guys. Practicum, you heard it. Practicum. Listen, this is crazy. I can't. You had me at practicum.
So, but I agree with that. I do. I mean, I will tell you, like, I have written film scores like during a time where it's like I used up my advance on some other stuff, and I'm waiting for the other money to come in, and I'm distracted by. I mean, that's a financial thing, but I don't know. Some people, there are some artistic, creative people who are able to take pain and turn it into like great art. I am not one of those people. Things need to be going really well for me.
He's thinking about it every 5 seconds. Depp is.
Yeah. Right.
I don't think this leaves his brain. No matter what he says, I don't think it ever leaves his brain. And this is what they say. about Tiger Woods here and Deshaun Watson, how it's just so huge for so long. You can't delete this from your brain, and it's screwing with you psychologically. No matter how those skills are still there, you can't separate it when you get on the field.
Right. And I wonder if, you know, the comfort of having public favor on your side enables you to tap into your ability to perform your talent.
Yeah.
And so it leads me to ask, you know, Depp clearly cares what the public thinks of him in that case. I mean, even though
he has to now, because that's who has his back, and that's the argument.
Right.
I think it's flamered, and certainly Kathy Scott thinks is what we say about with Fairfax, how he flees to England to get away. That's the place that convicted you. That's the place that considers you a wife beater.
Right.
It's America that exonerated you. It's the fans in America who had your back outside effects, but you're fleeing to England to kiss Jeff Beck's ass, where in America is the place where you should feel safe. It doesn't make any sense.
Right. Maybe it must be some sort of like, you know, I need to like it's almost like the survivalist thing of like, I've got to go back and face my demons, you know, because they have to like me, you know. It's like it's like George, it's like the Seinfeld where George is obsessed with the fact that Jennifer Coolidge doesn't like him, and he becomes obsessed with her.
Yeah, it's a good one. I forgot about that. Tybus is a hot man, says Sarah. He's the black man in the middle. He looks like Baron Davis a little bit, doesn't he, guys? I agree with that, Sarah. He's a very hot man. Let's see what Davvyd says. If Davvyd likes the brown sugar. A ham sandwich killing a mama cass is Autobot.
Oh, God.
Sarah says, I give Deshaun Watson a handy for Super Bowl ring right at midfield as the confetti came down, and that's not a metaphor. Maybe it is with her. Who knows?
I need one horny Sarah comment per Deppening. So even in text form. I'm glad we got it.
Could you imagine her writing that dialogue for B. Arthur in a Golden Girls? This is good, says Josh Foster. I agree. I could listen to these good sports talk shows all day. I find them comforting, as do I, sir. I highly recommend the Cleveland Sports Show if you are. Even if you're not a Cleveland fan, they're just fan, as Jay would say. I would this whole conversation is I was mesmerized trying to equate it to Depp. John O'Reilly says Sol Wachtler, how do you say this? Wachtler, former chief judge of New York appeals, the author of the ham sandwich. Quote, he had stepped down when he was caught stalking one. Thank you, JOR. I've always wondered where the hell that came from. And finally, JOR clears it up. Oh, I hear that ham sandwich thing. They all the time in politics, they go, you know, when somebody gets in trouble, they assuage like, oh, it's not a big deal. You can enjoy the ham sandwich. And I never, ever understood where it came from.
Yeah.
Flamer said, I'm listening to the transcript of Jennifer Howell today, and it comes up about AH being abused in her childhood. Yeah, she's a horrible childhood. If there's ever a time I feel sorry for her, she had a horrible childhood.
Yeah.
Their dad was terrible. And yet nuance does not excuse her behavior. For JD, he's practically an insomniac these days. It makes to us that is to inform his decisions. He has appreciated his fans. He fled to the UK because he can get our public out of the public eye more easily than the United States. I don't know about that, Flamer. If that's what his attitude is, I disagree. I think you go to the place who had your back implicitly in Fairfax, and that says it all. I think he goes to the UK because he thinks it's cool and he wants to kiss Jeff Beck's ass. That's why he's there. And Tim Burton lives there too. He needs to bring his ass over here. We have his back, says Kathy Scott. The quote was made famous because it was used in The Bonfire of the Vanities. You ever see that, Davvyd, with Tom Hanks? And
I just know the book, the Tom Wolfe book.
Oh, there's a book?
It's based on a book.
You're reading a book. You're writing a
based
book.
on Tom Wolfe book.
A little book. No, I knew it was a book. I just saw the movie. I didn't read the book. With Melanie Griffith and Tom Hanks and Bruce Willis.
That's right.
It came out right after Punchline, as a matter of fact.
Oh, interesting.
Center's going to run it. I mean, what the whole idea here of ESPN and ESPN2 is you can put on multiple shows at the same time.
Right.
It's news and information, and that's Sports Center. First Take is opinion. Well, yeah, but you guys certainly are going to discuss afterwards what we've seen, so we're going to put it on. And I just remember, I don't ever think I felt more gross as a member of the media than I did that day. Mm-hmm. Because here's what they made that man do. Over something that was private and personal.
Listen to this.
Yeah.
and his sponsors were largely behind it, and his agent. They waltzed that man out in front of hundreds of media members.
Close it is to Depp.
And the networks carried it live, and ESPN carried it live, and ESPN2 carried it live. And they made that man grovel about his worst personal decision of his life. And I remember in the moment thinking, can you imagine having to do that?
I don't know about you guys. I'm getting chills listening to this and the similarities. Am I crazy? Am I delusional? I'm telling you, it's the same thing. What he just said.
Is it different? And you know more about this than I do, but do you think that Depp was kind of charged up in terms, like he wasn't embarrassed to go to
Oh, Davvyd, he doesn't want any of his personal details revealed like that. That's what Jay Crawford's saying.
Right. Okay. So
like
that's the one thing.
All his laundry's aired out, and they said to him, like, "Look, if you're gonna win this, you gotta fucking let it fly. You gotta you gotta release those texts." And he hates it. And this is what he's saying here. It's so ridiculously similar.
Now I know he's Tiger Woods, and there are expectations.
And he didn't have to, right? He could have said no.
He initially said absolutely not.
Thank you,
but
Josh.
The cry from the mob that is the media got so loud that his sponsors said, "You got to do this, Tiger."
Right.
And then you know what his
that's Ben Chu. That's Ben Chu, and say, "You got to do this." Yeah. That's his people. That's his management. You got to do this. You gotta televise this. You got to take this on. You got to do this.
Right. The sponsors like Warner Brothers are pulling out.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, Disney. It's like getting canceled by Disney and Warner Brothers. Josh Foster goes, man, yeah, John O'Reilly is one of the smart ones. He knows a lot of stuff. We are lucky to have all of you in the chat. I say this all the time. I mean, I got like a bachelor's in legalese because of him. This is great stuff. I'm telling you, it's great stuff.
Yeah,
this is the only spot's not about gambling. They bring up gambling once in a while.
The sponsors did after he did it?
They dumped them.
Dropped them.
Yeah, right.
Instantly. Nike,
Warner Brothers.
all of them. We're done.
Disney dropped them.
So imagine after making the worst personal decision of your life that literally was the tadpole that made your ball of life come unraveled. You have to stand in front of hundreds of cameras and repent and say, I made an awful decision.
Yeah.
I cheated on my wife.
Whoa, God.
There was a physical altercation. I wrecked my car.
Is this crazy? Am I insane?
I wrecked my cell phone putting out the window.
Right.
That is crazy.
It's all there.
Sarah should make an edit of like take this dialogue and like cut to B-roll footage of like the trial and news reports and stuff. And
if you hear that, Sara, Davvyd wants you to take these quotes and disguise them as Depp, and then it's kind of superimpose Depp in there and make it look like you would not know the difference.
Yeah.
Flamer goes, yeah, AH had been in male contacts would have been canceled immediately. Jay has suffered with 10 years of text being offered up instead of 3 to 4. Lots of weirdness happened in UK. These are weird parallels, says Josh Foster.
I was using prescription drugs at the time and wasn't of the sound mind. And
there's the drugs.
Answered questions. And I remember in the moment thinking, this is the grossest thing I've ever watched. Why is it that we have to have that satisfaction as consumers, that we have to see this man fall on his sword in public? And he was never the same guy, ever. If you look at his stats pre that day and post that day, you're talking about two different people.
Right.
And what Deshaun Watson was put through wasn't Tiger Woods, but it wasn't far off.
No, and now again, you were right. Tiger had some injuries. And also Tiger was older and further along in his career than Watson.
But he was still like 30.
But
for a golfer, he's a young man.
But the mental, you never know. We talk about physical and what we see on the field. You never know what's in the guy's head.
Ty, would you agree with this? Because I have a lot of pro athletes tell me the most important muscle in the body when you're playing professional sports is the brain.
That's a fact.
I've always been told as definitively as you answered that question. Everybody that I've ever talked to that has played pro sports has told me this. Man, I've played with guys that were Hall of Fame talent. but had a nickel upstairs.
I swear that's the truth.
And it washed him right out of the game because that is what makes the difference.
You got to be, listen.
And Tiger lost that.
You got to be
and has Deshaun lost that? Give me an example of something
I hope not. I hope not. I'll give you an example of myself. I was, this confident guy that I am today, I never was always that.
It's he brings up imposter complex here.
Right.
It's such a good conversation. I cannot believe the parallels. I'll say it again.
Do you think that Johnny Depp, you've mentioned before that you think he also has imposter complex, but then how does that...
He definitely does.
How does that interact with his ability to give a good performance when he was giving a good performance?
Because he's not comfortable playing normal people.
Right.
He doesn't know what normal is. So when he plays someone you construe as normal, he just doesn't feel right. He feels wrong in his own skin. So his skill is, I have to go as far away from what I really am as possible. What am I exactly? So I'll just be Whitey Bulger. And that's how I feel most comfortable.
And you can and that's a common actor thing, is like they're more comfortable being other people than themselves. So yeah, that makes sense.
That's how I would, in his mind. Flamer says, 1 week my mom died, $650 million lost. This is Depp's life. In 1 week, my mom dies. I lose $650 million. My birthday present a few weeks before. I'm convinced his prescriptions were not right, regardless of the Roxy and weed. He's lucky to be alive. Well, the whole thing with Dr. Kipper and Ozzy Osbourne and the, which we're going to do soon. The Bruce Witkin transcript goes into the Dr. Kipper stuff with this. He's just misdiagnosed, and he loves misdiagnosing because it keeps you on the hook. Right. If you get it right the first time, the doctor's going to you're not going to need him anymore.
Right.
He never fit in with the moving, the intuit's the outsider, and that's how I feel. Yeah, it's very true. The outsider, but as far away from what he is. Like Whitey Bulger's not an outsider. Whitey Bulger's just completely stepping out of your own skin and being someone else. And yeah, the old outsider thing with him, but how, that seems to have, what he calls an outsider, you may not, and it's arbitrary as to what an outsider is that he's playing, but it's just get as far away from yourself as possible.
Right.
He's more comfortable being Jack Sparrow on a set in front of this huge staff of people and the whole production, but he's can't look at the crowd when he's playing guitar, staring at his feet.
He's more comfortable being Jack Sparrow visiting dying children. He doesn't even think he, as himself, is worthy enough to greet. Those kids would probably be happy to see that it's Johnny Depp. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I know who you are and what it is,
Well, it's funny, like kids that age, like, I don't know if they know him as the movie star, but just they know Jack Sparrow because those
right. So
kids.
that's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
Hey, guy, you know that? I was never that guy.
If I may psychoanalyze you for a second, because I'm very similar.
Yeah.
I'm not to the point that you are, but I believe in myself way more than anybody should believe in himself. But I also will say this, and I'll admit this. There's a part of me, not so much now, but particularly when I was younger, in both athletics and in this career, there was a piece of me that was insecure.
Yeah.
And the way I hid that was being you.
No, honestly, I never did that. I just was never, I was not as confident in myself as I am today. Like I was always. Did you ever have an insecurity?
Yeah. In your ability?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you try to convince yourself that you were not an imposter, that you belonged, by saying it out loud in front of other people?
No.
Because I did.
No, I didn't do that.
I did.
I didn't say, I just.
That is so eerie, him bringing up, which I have.
Yeah.
Him bringing up imposter complex. That's such an eerie comment, which I believe Depp has in spades.
Right. So, yeah, because I'm trying to think. I don't think it's interesting. Johnny Depp, as far as I know, and I'm not nearly the expert you are, but I'm more of an expert than I was before I started listening to the Deppening.
Yeah, your knowledge is interesting. You came at me with the Michael Mann stuff, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, right. I don't think Depp has ever. I don't think I've ever seen him talk about. I remember when we were going to do the Sweeney Todd watch along, and I watched the sort of interviews that he did before about making the movie. And he always has this kind of like, I'm embarrassed to be here interviewing about putting a character together, kind of thing, like, oh, this is such an embarrassing line of work, and I don't really want to be here. And he has this kind of smirk on his face, like
he keeps the thing about the ridiculousness of the occupation in his brain, like saying where sometimes it just hits you. You go, it's really kind of silly what we do, and I'm over intellectualizing just pretending for a living.
Right,
it doesn't
exactly.
require this kind of analyzation.
So what this guy's saying, where it's like, you know, you have to say, you said publicly that I am confident or that I am great. I've never seen him do that, Johnny Depp.
No.
And I guess there's no arena for him to do that. Yeah.
I mean, he knows when he hits. I've heard him be proud of things before. Stuff like Donnie Brasco and what was something he was immensely proud of. Let me see.
I mean, I've heard actors talk about I hate actors that are like, oh, I don't watch my own stuff.
I think he was proud of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Right.
Even though it's not for everybody, I feel like he was proud of that.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, like, I remember the second time John Goodman was on Howard, or maybe even the first time, Howard asked him, like, do you ever watch what's the Coen Brothers movie that he's really famous for?
Brother, Where Art Thou?
Brother, Where Art Thou? Yeah. And
or Big Lebowski, or
Big Lebowski. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. And John Goodman was like, yeah, Big Lebowski came on, TNT the other day, and I was like, oh, it's in the middle. I'll sit down and watch it. I was like, that's an actor I like. It's like, it's not about you. You don't have to be embarrassed that you're watching yourself. It's like, no, hey, I'm proud that we made the group of us made a collectively good piece of content.
He's had some career, John Goodman. I mean, he's been in so many things. The stories that guy must have
honestly
that now. Yeah. And you forget about Roseanne, even. Like, he's just been in so many things.
Right.
Just told myself, like, you're here for a reason. Like, and then I would have, over the course of my play, always be other people that be like, man, that's really good. Like, you are good. So then I start thinking, man, maybe I am pretty good. Because a lot of the times,
you started buying your own hype.
Yeah, I was like, man, maybe I am. So then it took it took towards the end of my career where I was like, you know what? I am like that. Like, I am that good. And it just bled into who I am today.
Did you ever see or play with someone who had a personal event in their life that mentally they just couldn't overcome that? That hurdle was too much to cross.
This is Depp.
A lot of them that I've seen bounce back.
This is Depp.
A lot of them bounce back. I can't really recall somebody who didn't bounce back, and the thing with the Deshaun Watson thing is that, yeah, he had one of the biggest things going in the world. I mean, it was everywhere, and he could never avoid it. I mean, his family went through it for him because of him.
It was close to Tiger Woods. Yeah. It really was.
Come on. How eerie is what he's saying here? Yeah. His family went through it. Can he overcome? This is so good. I can't believe the parallels. I'm not delusional. I'm not.
Do you think that by the time because allegations started coming out 2016 or 2018?
Yeah, I mean the shit with them probably the early part of 16 when the TMZ video came out in 2016. There were weirdness even before that, but 2016.
Okay, so I wonder if Johnny Depp, as much as he sort of denied his own hype in interviews and was just kind of like an aw shucks kind of humble guy, and I'm sure there is part of him that is humble, but I wonder if he believed his own hype, and when public favor turned against him, that kind of like, God, I wish I had that.
I can't believe I could be that high and get brought down to such a level. That was a lot of what the Stephen Roderick article was in Rolling Stone. How you could be at the top of the mountain like that and you fall hard. And I think in his mind, like, this is how could to get this taken away from me seemed impossible because you couldn't be at a higher level. There was no going up, really. He really was at the top. So there really was only going down.
Yeah.
Bounce back. A lot of them bounce back. I can't really recall somebody who didn't bounce back and the thing with the Deshaun Watson thing is that, yeah, he had he had one of the biggest things going in the world. I mean, it was everywhere, and he could never avoid it. I mean, his family went through it for him because of him.
It was close to Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
It really was.
But as a person and as a competitor and as a guy, you got to find a way to try to get over it. Because for the rest of your life, if you don't do nothing in football ever again, if you continue to like, that's what they're going to say about you.
Right.
Yeah.
If he doesn't
like,
turn his career back on track,
like Ben Roethlisberger at least won Super Bowls, and like people, it's stuff that people like. All right, it kind of got washed away a little bit. His last game, they was talking about him like he was the greatest man
like he
in
never
the world.
did anything wrong.
Exactly. So
he can make people forget.
That's what I'm saying.
The only way to do it now is with his play.
And on top of that, the best part about it is you got a team that believes in you, that gives you all the support in the world.
Do they still? Do you think?
Yeah, they do. They have no choice. You got teammates that sit there and cheer you on and believe you. Every time I hear this whole preseason, every time I got sound for the Browns radio network, it'd be Four is like that. Oh, wait till y'all see Four. Four really a dog.
Where is he? Well, I'd like to see.
So that's what I'm saying. So it's like you got all these people that you've already shown it, that you still got it. You got all these people that believe in you. Got a coaching staff that's riding on you. Like my job depends on you. This whole organization, this whole roster, this whole coaching staff is dependent on you.
Infinitum Nihil Productions.
Right. Yeah.
And you got to find a way to make it work. Or if you don't, it's over. It's over.
Go ahead.
Well, let's hope he holds. He can handle that pressure. But I know.
Good enough. Did you hear what Davvyd said in that? He slipped in Beachy Cold. He's counting on
it's
you.
Dependent on him. I need your swampland with a willow tree to film my next music video.
Oh my God, the eerie parallels. Anyway, please listen to watch the Cleveland Sports Show, because it's a lot of that. Those are the greatest conversation I've ever heard. And you don't have to be a sports fan to enjoy that conversation, because every single parallel is about Johnny Depp and the current state of his life and career. I think it's brilliant. Good. I mean,
cool.
Pybus,
and it's just
Jay
it's
Crawford,
just a general
Adam the Bull.
Yeah, and it's just a general conversation about, like, I've never been more aware of celebrities fucking up and having to atone than in the last 15 or 20 years.
Yeah.
It's just such a big part of our culture now is the sometimes necessary atoning and the sometimes what is happening Schadenfreude aspect of pop culture. It's interesting.
Flamer says, yeah, this is a quote of Depp from that. It goes, one day you're Cinderella, the next day you're Quasimodo. Baron Davis, right, Josh? It's so Baron Davis, Pybus. Johnny Bye-Bye says, feels gayer than a drag show. Where's the outrage? Johnny, great to see you, pal. Elon Musk's book. We're going to be doing it, if you know what I mean. Next week, we're going to take on that little... apparently he blurbs, we glorified blurb of the Amber Heard stuff, and I want to take that apart. Whatever it is, when I talk about Elon Musk, I don't have a better way to say it other than whatever Elon Musk is selling, I'm not buying. I don't know what it is. No. I just dislike everything about him.
Oh, I hate him.
Whatever he is, awful. Whatever he's selling, I'm not buying. You think about it I remember this quote Dennis Miller said about Kathleen Turner or something like when Christ's sake, this country's more fucked up than Kathleen Turner's accent. I think Elon Musk is the new example of Kathleen Turner's accent. There's no more annoying speech cadence than his. Right. And he has no dramatic pauses. Whatever it is Elon Musk is selling, including his book, I'm not buying.
Yeah.
Back to Michael Vick is a great example, Josh. That's another good one. So great conversation there, Debbie. Did I oversell that? I don't believe I did.
No, I mean, just every line is yep, that the fact that we could over that audio replace what they were saying with the correlating examples is pretty cool.
Nice use of correlating examples, sir. So here's not a way that this is not what Pybus and Jay Crawford are describing getting back. In my opinion,
doing something
this is
great.
Going the other direction. This is the very definition of why This is the opposite of why I became a Depp fan. If you told me in 1994 that he'd be the spokes pitch person for a fucking cologne that smells like brown cigarettes and MDMA, I would say you're crazy. But here we are, and I have to somehow. These fake Depp fans are celebrating with cologne ads. How this helps you as a fan of the man's artistic work, I have no idea. This is the very antithesis of art. This is the very personification of, quote, selling out. Am I right, Davvyd?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he might as well be selling Mark and Brian sponges or whatever Howard used to complain about.
And it's probably very pricey. I don't know who can afford this, who would want to. This probably annoys me more than the Hollywood vampires, if that were possible. Johnny Depp 60 returns. We know about the Sauvage stuff, but apparently it's a re-up on the contract, and he loves that they stood by him, and of course they stood by you. Well, who are they going to hire? Skeet Ulrich? What are they going to do? It's France, right? We're all horrible deviants goes to stay and live on. Like that's where Roman Polanski flees to. Johnny Depp 60
Christian
returns.
Slater is the new face of Sauvage.
Johnny Depp 60 returns to the face of Dior Sauvage after an eye-watering $20 million campaign. This is where we talk about the money and where the 650, how you recoup that. And this is the process. This is the easiest way to do it. This is like, an hour and a half's work. This is what a guy like him can do. And there's no broke with Depp.
Yeah. By the way, the title, they used the term is mouth-watering. I think someone had a little slip up there. Isn't it like eye-watering?
Hey,
isn't a
Davvyd.
phrase, is it?
Hey, don't parenthetical your way out of this.
Heidi Parker.
How dare you catch that horrible mistake to me? Eye-watering. Davvyd is right. I didn't even catch it, and I read it. They absolutely, the Daily Mail, which our beloved Adam Levy works for, they said eye-watering instead of mouth-watering. You're absolutely right.
That doesn't make sense.
We need to contact Heidi Parker right now.
Right.
The fake name. Cancel Heidi Parker for saying eye-watering. Johnny Depp, 60, Pirates of the Caribbean actor seen in a new commercial called The Call of the Blazing Sun, as the Phoenix Suns and the Portland Trailblazers merge. For the Dior fragrance Sauvage, he talked about the eagles and the sky and dry wood and the cold wind and the moody clip. Bold and powerful. In his essence, his truth embodies soul of Sauvage. Dior. He said on Instagram, the brand also called him fearless. Yeah, this is my definition. This is suspending all fear. This is courage at its height. This is the very definition of courage, being the spokesman of Sauvage. It is so
being
great.
the spokesperson for Sauvage brings to mind like covering your head under a pillow in the basement, like hiding from a tornado, like in your career.
All the fear of Pepe Le Pew.
Yeah.
All the fearlessness of Pepe Le Pew. The Hollywood star looked handsome in his black clothing with his silver jewelry and long hair worn down. The ex of Vanessa Paradis was reportedly paid an eye-watering, again with the eye-wash. She did this twice, Davvyd. Eye-watering. $20 million to re-up his contract with the French company earlier this year. Look at this. He posed for this. Whose idea? If I'm working in Infinite Mile, none of this shit exists. And I would get you the $20 million, but it wouldn't be for this. It would be something we could both be proud of. This ain't it.
Yeah.
He never goes out of style. Jeff is back on. I'll read the captions. Maybe should we play the commercial?
Sure. Johnny Depp is Jesus Christ.
I didn't realize the commercial was in here. Will it play for me? Of course.
Saffron Supply Company has.
There's a commercial before the commercial.
No ads. The ads on the Daily Mail, Davvyd. It makes Radar Online look artistic.
Community since 1910, and now with help of Zematic, we're supporting the entire state of Oregon. Don't let your crops get the second best. Find Zematic.
Alert Sara supporting the state of Oregon.
Yes, Saffron Supplies, Sara.
An eagle cries as it circles its prey. The blazing sun high in the ozone blue sky. A trail of cold wind stirs around dry wood and stone. This is the call of Sauvage. Aux toilettes.
Do you feel the douche chills that I feel right now? Do you
I feel
the
the toilette.
embarrassment? Ladies and gentlemen, the very definition of selling out. Do you feel the douche chill?
Yeah,
Ladies
that
and
was
gentlemen,
pretty.
the very definition of a quote official parody of your let's use Vanessa's name. How about a headline using Vanessa's name, a parody of yourself.
Yes.
Paradis, a parody of yourself. This is
Yeah.
what they say. I think it was like an overused thing. Nothing personifies that more than what we just watched.
It's so
I am
true.
embarrassed for him. I'm going to get, it's not just that even like I get contacted about these ads. You realize the shit that it's not that what we just watched with the Cleveland Sports Show and Getting Your Family. I have to be embarrassed. I'm getting texts and calls about these commercials. I have to defend this. I can't defend it. I have to go dark until it goes away.
Right.
I'm getting shit for this. Me.
Even the music in the commercial, it must be Alice Cooper playing. You know, it's like it's like every Depp trope that we talk about that is not in his favor in terms of him having artistic integrity is in that commercial.
Did you ever see Brad Pitt? You ever see who's the really underrated Saturday Night Live sketch guy who got fired because he's actually talented? God, who's the white? He's married to Kobe Smulders. He was on Saturday Night Live. He does a Brad Pitt impression on there.
Was it the guy who was fired for his racist comments? Or
no. God damn it! What is his name? Somebody help me out if you get in the chat. He was on like 5-6 seasons ago. He's married.
Taran Killam.
Taran Killam, phenomenal sketch performer, so underrated. Great on the show. He did a Brad Pitt impression that is A+. It's one of the best things Saturday Night Live has ever done, and it's just like that.
Yeah,
you could easily do that. Good God. So Flamer goes Mont Blanc, that stupid pen thing he did. In 2004, Vanessa was a Chanel spokesperson for years. France is the fashion hotbed. God, that's what Lily Rose is just, that's the Nepo baby stuff. That's what you're born into. And France seems to, normalize or lionize or galvanize all those shitty things I hate in pop culture. All bullshit comes out of France in pop culture. Yeah. Really, I'm starting to just hate that country now. When I see that commercial, it makes me hate. And I try not to be that person. And there's things about France I like. But Jesus Christ, it's just all things shitty seem to come out of that country, and deviant.
Well, and also that Depp is buying into, he's buying into the idea that like France equals classy in terms of my public image, and that's
he
what
looks
I want.
Sincere when he's doing that. He knows it's $20 million for 90 seconds work.
Right.
That's all there is to it.
Oh,
you lost $650 million, and now the fastest way to recoup it is to do this and pretend this is somehow artistic or it's some kind of brand that's elevated. Bullshit. It is as lame and as selling out as anything, as Doritos is.
So yeah, like I want to smell like wood paneling, so I'm gonna buy a Sauvage.
Depp still support his sister. Well, we're doing the Christie readings, and she knows where her bread is buttered. As far as Depp goes, that's a whole other story we need to tap into soon. I have not heard from his older sister in a long time. That's a good. If you listen to our transcripts, we found out that with Sara playing Christie, that he actually your favorite Danny Depp was brought into it. Davvyd, I don't know if you listened to it. He had to give his brother Danny a loan. That's the unsealed transcript. And I knew at some point, I think he had to give his brother Danny $70,000 at some point.
Really? The latest Spandau novel didn't hit the New York Times bestseller
You read the
list?
novels? I know. Johnny Bye-Bye says Depp was slowly turning into Tommy was. How do you say that?
Wizzo, yeah. The guy from The Room.
100% SNL sketch. F is for France. No one needs 600. You're right, Jamie. No one needs to recoup 600. But if you're paying for everything that he's paying for that we know, maybe you do need it.
Well, the Roderick article said he was spending like how much per month? Like some ridiculous number per month.
So many people depend on him, and which is really dope. It's like the most noble thing about him, that he has bailed out so many people in so many different ways. But if that's what it takes, let him burn. I ain't doing a Sauvage ad for that.
I mean, the fact that like I don't know what Jack Depp does. I mean, he's an adult now. Like, does he have a job, or is he just kind of a jet setter? You know, is he supported by
that
his
is
dad?
a phenomenal question. Yeah, every day, probably once a day, I often say, "There's no better life than the life of Jack Depp."
Yes.
Not even like Lily Rose at least puts herself out there, and she's kind of like, she's
trying to be someone.
She's trying to, he is living the life. He's like DiCaprio's life without the career, without the hindrance of, and then gets respect from Depp's fans for just being his son. There's nothing he's done to earn it. He's just stays out of the limelight, and he gets this bizarre, Nepo baby respect without really putting yourself. And again, you can't be. He's never going to pass his dad by, so why even bother going into the same field? But you have to, don't you? You could just. There's no. He is 21 now, and he's just a party boy. He's a very clandestine party boy. And the pictures you see of him hanging out with his friends, and they're globe hopping, and he's in France, he's in and he just looks like a goofy party boy. And I can't say anything more than that about what he's doing, because there's nothing. Apparently he was working on some film but it wasn't much of some production thing, and I'm not going to even dignify it because who cares. But yeah, ultimately he is a goofy party boy and just running around on. I mean, let's not forget that Vanessa's very well off too, and they're very close with their mom.
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, it's funny that like Jack is not the second coming of Johnny in terms of like he's unusual looking. He
looks more like John Mayer than he does like
Depp. Yeah. He has this. I was looking at a picture of him and I was like, oh, he has kind of like an Eddie Munster look to his face.
Are we pretending that he's a good looking guy because he's Depp's son? Are we embellishing his looks because that's his last name? You know what I mean? Like, are we making him out to be better looking than he is?
Right. And if he was like, I'm trying to think of I don't know if it was like a Kirk and Michael Douglas situation where I feel like they really did look like each other.
How about Don Swayze and Patrick Swayze?
I don't know if I've seen.
Go look up Don Swayze if you can look up a picture.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, I wonder.
How about this? This is you people like these. Yeah. This is for you people. Nick Lachey and Drew Lachey.
Oh, I'll look that one up. Yeah, okay. So Don Swayze looks a little Neanderthalish compared to his dad. I mean, I'm sure he's.
I'm not even going like father and son. I'm just going sibling. You could be siblings.
Right.
The same gene pool. How about Nick Lachey and Drew Lachey?
Drew Lachey.
Now you're the gay man. You should be pulling out the.
I should be. Yeah, I know. I should.
References, not me.
Absolutely, it's so true. I don't know. I'm falling down. Oh, they're from Ohio too. I didn't realize that.
Yes, they are. Yes, I knew that.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I do feel like there.
By the way, Nick Lachey originally from Kentucky, close to where Depp is.
Oh, interesting.
Kentucky's very close to. Yeah, you can. God, I'm sorry.
No. If Jack was like a young Johnny Depp in terms of his charisma, I think a lot more attention would be paid to his whereabouts from the Deptford wives. And, it's like they get a second shot at idolizing what they fell in love with in 21 Jump Street or Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes. I said my ultimate, like, what if scenario was like Depp finally just takes my advice. I become the ruler of Infinitum Nihil, and I pick the projects, and we bring 21 Jump Street back to Netflix. And Hansen plays the Captain Fuller role. Stephen Williams is on the show as a consultant, and he hangs out with him and he gets advice from him. But Hansen's the captain, and then Lily Rose and Jack play the undercover cops.
Yeah,
how great is that?
I like that. That's a great idea.
That nepotism to the fullest, right there.
And Vanessa could cover the theme song,
Yes.
Get the whole family involved.
Well, that's Kevin Smith's Yoga Hosers is basically the whole. You'll see it at the end of this. The whole Depp family is in Yoga Hosers.
Right.
Kevin Smith did it for him because Vanessa has a cameo in that as a French teacher.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Depp supports the whole family. Yeah, Debbie's at the horse farm in Kentucky and that whole thing with William Rassel, her nephew and stuff. And I don't know where that stands anymore. Initially it went to the mom and then she took it over. How many people Depp support? Oh God, Josh, you're looking at, there must be 40, 50 people in there somewhere. from like, Sean Bett and Mark Gibbs and security, and they need him, and there's no better, gig than that, following him around, and they're having a good old time, those two.
We were able to get the 112 Productions IRA plan and the list of people on that. We should be able to get Infinitum Nihil.
I'm close to knowing it all. I'm off the top of my just cobbling information around.
Sure.
Sara said, John O'Reilly says Sara did a great mini documentary on the Eastern Columbia building. I agree. I love that
so
thing.
good.
And
That's
all
one of
the
my
people
favorite
living off Depp
episodes.
there. Yeah, that's a good episode. That's is it 2 years ago now we did that?
I think so, yeah. And it's also the one where you listen to the audio of them. It's the first time you listen to the Aquaman audio for the first time.
Yes.
That's a great episode, jam-packed.
Look at Flamered with the Hout. Is that how you say that? Hout?
Haute Couture.
Yeah, that she was an English teacher pulling that shit out, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's you and to have you two on the same show swapping thesaurus. These two.
I'll tell about my time traveling life where I was, living in the potato famine in Ireland.
There's Sara now. She goes, please like and subscribe. Please donate to the Arm Fund. Did he sell the place in Kentucky? I don't know where that is, Kathy. I thought he was supposed to, and I never got closure on what the final sale was of the horse farm. It's a great question. You should take a trip one day, Kathy, and from Tennessee, and just drive to the horse and see what's up with it. You could do it.
Yeah. Did his parents live there until they died?
The dad, he visited the dad in Kentucky not too long ago,
okay.
John Sr., and there was no horse farm. It was just like a regular neighborhood. It was a suburban neighborhood. And there's a picture of him with a bunch of neighborhood kids on the front lawn in Owensboro.
I bet if we did a deep dive on, like, I know I've been threatening to do this, but I just can't get through the book. If we went through Daniel Depp's books and did like a series of deep dives, totally. I bet he would see it, and I bet he would get in touch with us.
Kathy Scott says Jack's net worth is $1 million. I don't know what he had. I don't know what. Like I would say, like the whole thing about why I was annoyed at the kids not being at the trial was, you're getting the inheritance. Everything Amber Heard takes from you is what you're not getting when Depp, and he claims it was for them, and then he skips out on the last day, and his trials for my kids, and I'm not important enough to get the I've gone on a million times about how I hated that he wasn't there the last day. I'll never ever like that. And all the insult of the people who had his back the whole time, sleeping on benches and stuff, waiting for him. He just jets off to play with Jeff Beck, not hearing as if it's the most unimportant concert in the history of music.
Of concerts.
Yeah, of concerts. Jack is definitely Vanessa's son. Lily Rose is more of a mix of them both. Yes, Joni, I agree. 45. Yes, Josh. Isabel says the Continental is on Peacock tonight. What's that? What is that?
No idea.
That's a big show or something. Is that a new show on Peacock?
I guess.
Please, again, donate. Arm will not mention it. I don't refuse to mention it. I just get carried away with my bullshit, Sara. I don't refuse to mention it. But yes, please like and subscribe. And if anything, what Sara's going through, Jesus. Talk about tragedy and trauma, and it comes in threes, and she is going through it. Trust me. In the Rolling Stone article, he put it on the end. He put it on and took it off the market. Oh, okay. The house farm. Right. Good call, Flamer. That's true. Roderick did mention that. The Continental is a show about John Wick in the John Wick universe. Okay. I've heard about that. Okay. Last thing. Speaking of Lily Rose, this is what happened to Idol and its demise. It's odd because it never was like officially like a big story, but it got canceled. Yeah. And there was rumors that it would, and we kind of knew that it would. And this is the last thing we're going to do. This is from Variety, so it's official. They got their shit together. The Idol canceled controversial series from Sam Levinson in The Weeknd. How is Lily Rose not in that? Won't get a season 2, will it? The Idol, HBO's controversial-ridden series from Sam Levinson and Abel Tesfaye, The Weeknd, has been canceled after one season. The Idol is one of the HBO... See, this guy, The Idol, Davvyd, Tesfaye, you know this guy?
Weeknd, yeah. Right.
Yeah. Okay. So he had the audacity. This is what we just said about doing songs. He had a song called Blinded by the Lights.
Right.
This is what we're talking with Beachy Cold Cow and Who Will Save Your Soul. The guy comes out with a song called "Blinded by the Light."
Right.
And nobody said, and it was a huge hit. Nobody said, you know what, Bruce Springsteen and Manfred Mann did that. Maybe you want to change that title. I don't think everyone's going to. No, I'm Blinded by the Light. That's what I'm going to call it. I'm going to steal their title and I'm going to.
I have a great song. I have a great song titled "Dancing in the Lack of Light."
I'm gonna just take Bruce Springsteen titles and just rearrange them as my own.
Yeah,
That's
just use synonyms. Right.
The Idol was one of the HBO's most provocative original programs. We're pleased by the strong audience response. After much thought and consideration, HBO, as well as creators, producers, have decided not to move forward with the second season. We're grateful to the creators, cast, and crew for their incredible work. Why did they not want to? Season 1 concluded after just five episodes. That's as short as Seinfeld season 1. Same commitment. Seinfeld season 1, 5 episodes, shortened from the originally planned 6 episodes. So they cut an episode off on July 2nd. The decision to cancel the series was made recently after a lack of clarity. Have you ever heard something get? Isn't Hollywood about money, Davvyd? Is clarity now a euphemism for money? Lack of clarity of money for both viewers and cast members. Have you ever heard something get canceled for lack of clarity?
No, I've never heard of that in my life.
The series, these PR people are genius that they can think of lack of clarity. Had the potential to continue. In an interview with Variety star Moses Sumney said that he signed on thinking it was a limited series, while this is another excuse you can make. While star Divine Joy Randolph told Variety she thought everyone's intention was to have a second season. When the rumor swirled that the show had been canceled, HBO posted on X and then Twitter, there was no status update yet. Created by Levinson, The Weekend starring Lily Rose Depp, The Idol began making headlines well before its debut in April of 2022. News broke Amy Seimetz had exited as director and would be replaced by Sam Levinson, and the series underwent significant reshoots so he could beat off to the
dailies.
The dailies, right. Then a March 2023 Rolling Stone report detailed serious allegations about a toxic set, which The Weeknd responded by posting a deleted scene where the character described Rolling Stone as irrelevant, which he's right about that. And the Cannes Film Festival, Levinson said an article made him realize the show would be the biggest show of the summer. Overall, The Idol was poorly received with 19% approval rating on a Rotten Tomatoes scale. Ratings for the series were middling. It premiered to 913,000 viewers.
Jesus.
Now, do you think, does that speak to the power of Depp or the lack of power of Depp? Show based on her last name, his last name,
right?
Her. I don't care what you say; they'll never admit it. They are launching this show based on Depp's last name.
I agree.
Else. Deny as they may, that last name is how this show got made.
I came onto an episode with you guys when the show was coming out, and we were reading an article about it, an article that was written in advance of the series coming out, and they referred to Lily Rose Depp as Depp again and again and again. And I know that's what they do in articles. They just go by the last name, but it's very convenient for them that her last name is so identified with Johnny Depp and no other actor.
Such a great point by you. Such a great observation. And the name is so pithy, right? It's just Depp.
Yeah.
Depp. And that's all that you're so right. They 100% wink, wink, wink promoted it on his name and the Fairfax brouhaha.
Yeah.
And to the tune of 913,000 viewers.
And also, like, don't you want to see if she got any of his acting talent?
Yes,
don't you want to see that?
Yes, this is right. That this is his offspring. Will he show up? And they probably even tease oh, is it possible that Depp's going to do a cameo in this? And so all these new poser Deptford wives are tuning in. And is that the maximum we're going to get? Right? If it's such a massive thing, why are we only getting this? Does that point to any protest of Aquaman will be irrelevant? Because they were protesting the first Aquaman and it made the most money in DC history and more than any other Depp movie.
Right.
Amber Heard's only in it for 5 seconds. I mean, very briefly. And they sort of around. But knowing the curiosity of what are they going to do with her is putting asses in the seats, I might say, in addition to that. And this is the reverse of that. His name is all over this, and this is all they can muster.
Right. I agree.
Targeted young. Everybody I know was, oh my God, Lily Rose and over and over again. And all these fake fans are going, I'm going to watch it. And they're just like pretending they like it. But it's showgirls. It's showgirls. It's based on Britney Spears, and it's with a fewer celebrity attached to the time. However, the number did grow to 3.6 million viewers after the first episode's full week of availability as it streamed. Now sits at a total of 7 million viewers for the whole series. Episode fell to 800,000 after the first episode. So, God damn it. Throughout the rest of the series, HBO declined to share its viewership data. You know what that means. Are you ever proud of something that you failed to share the viewership of? Along with Levinson on the weekend, Reza Fahim served as co-creator of The Idol. All three executive produced Kevin Turn, Ashley Levinson. Oh, no, could that be it? The same last name? Are they related? That can't be, right? Hollywood doesn't have nepotism. Joe Epstein or Sara E. White. That's LeBron James' production company, isn't it? Forgot about that. A24 also produced.
Yeah.
LeBron James has his own production company, and that was involved. It's not taking that Lily Rose doesn't have some semblance of talent. There's some. Yeah. I felt she had a charisma and I really get. She has something happening, and somewhat in the vein of Depp. And I found her likable and watchable, and she's eloquent, and she holds your attention. And she's actually a lot more athletic than you think. She's got a little hint of tomboy in her, and she's dating a basketball player, a high school basketball superstar. It makes a lot of sense. And I think there's a place for her somewhere. She's an utter Nepo baby. There's no denying that. The Idol is bad, says JM. The story was convoluted. The weekend can't act for shit. The plot twist made no sense. Nobody's likable, but they want you to feel bad for Lily's character. Spot on. Flamer canceled Netflix 2 years ago, and so she's not the judge. It was on HBO Max. I'll give it to you, Flamer, if you want. I have it all on my hard drive here. And it's not what you think. Come on.
Grow up, you children.
Grow up. Depp's daughter. And again, the final question is what he said about Amber Heard and gratuitous nudity and flaunting her sexuality. How is this better? And this is your own daughter. This is 50 times worse than whatever Amber Heard's done. Flaunting, using her feminine wiles. 50 times worse than the lap dance she gave Channing Tatum in Magic Mike 2. 50 times worse. So Depp has not commented on this show, and nor will he, because it flies in the face of all hypocrisy of what he said about Amber Heard and trying to pick her scripts, and you don't have to show your tits in every movie. Well, this is 10 times worse. This is crazy. This is showgirls.
This is Johnny Depp's Emily Stern Madonna play.
Oh no. This makes showgirls look like Fern Gully. This is so crazy. No, I'm serious. This is porn. It's his Sam Levinson indulging himself, make no mistake, using the name of John Christopher Depp II. No question about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Flamer, he commented on Can, but it was vague and it wasn't deep enough. You know what I mean? He did not. That was not good enough for me. That was PR.
The fortune cookie answer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fortune cookie. Yeah. You mean Depp is lying hypocrite, says Johnny?
Contrarian.
He never fails. He never misses his mark, and the Depp contrarian.
He's the best.
Anyway, Davvyd, I want to thank you for joining us.
Thanks, John. Yeah.
This weird episode, which was supposed to be a transcript read of Christy Dombrowski. I want everyone to go on to our Patreon. Davvyd's brilliance again at its display in the Seinfeld. Davvyd is going to have a new YouTube channel everyone's going to subscribe to soon. Do you have a name for it? Testicular Providence?
I should call it that. I should and pay out G Canada 5% of all my monetization.
You got to use one of our words. Parenthetical or circuitous. Yeah, practicum. Flamered, we need you to join us for our next 21 Jump Street. What's going to be next week? The Chapel of Love, the vignettes and the origin stories in season 2 of the Jump Street characters. Thank you as well. Sara, Godspeed in every way, shape, and form.
Yeah, sending love,
you.
Sara.
Sending love in our Deppening family. Like and subscribe. Anything you can. What is that? That QR. Yeah, Depp has a tattoo now that is a Deppening QR code on his. I think it's his left tricep or something.
We should pull that screenshot from the Bono video and like just put the Deppening QR code over it. There's another project for Sara. There we go.
Thank you, John O'Reilly, for the legalese and the fun. The fun is free. The legalese advice is also free when it's John O'Reilly. Have a great weekend to you, Autobot, and Josh Foster. Sue Monster, the menchiest of mensch. She's in the Ida Greenbacks category of mensch. We are lucky. Happy weekend to you. Go Chiefs. Are you from Kansas City, Sue Monster? Or St. Louis? Are you really from there? That's where. Isn't Michael Mann from St. Louis? Kansas City?
Might be. Yeah,
he's from Chicago.
I think he's from the Midwest somewhere. Yeah,
he's from Chicago, I think. So yeah, I recommend the Cleveland Sports Show. Let's give them a plug. Cleveland.
Yeah,
please watch that. And our friend Stephen Roderick, who did the article on Depp, has an article on Michael Mann that Davvyd required reading for you.
Yeah.
John O'Reilly sending positive thoughts to Sara. We have the greatest people in our chat. We are lucky to have you on any level, let alone any kind of donation. We're just lucky with all the options are you listen to this on any level. But I don't think there's anything like this out there. I'm really confident, especially when you bring in the likes of Davvyd. Davvyd, any last words you want to leave the people?
I've used up all my big vocabulary words for today. So
this is ARM for Davvyd, and so you have 4 teams, but none of them. I don't know why you guys can't keep an NBA team in St. Louis, Kansas City. You had the Spirits of St. Louis, which was an ABA team, the Kansas City Kings, and now nothing. You deserve an NBA team. I don't know why you can't keep one. This is ARM for Davvyd and Sara and the Depps saying,
"Moo, moo, moo! I'm a loser." Eh?
Sit down. Stay where you are. For the first time, I choose to walk out on you.
Jump.